All right, you have before you a copy of the modified written agenda. Are there any proposed revisions to the agenda? Any proposed revisions? Any proposed revisions to the agenda is read.
I'd like to add an item that was listed in it was provided in our packet, but it failed to make the agenda, and that will be item under board business, or I'm sorry, under department business, under sanitation, we have L1. This will be adding L2, which will be the request, consideration of the approval of the lowest and best bidder, Helena Chemical Company, for the herbicide program for 2012 for the city of Starkville in the amount of $7,795.20.
All right, you're going to have to slow down for me.
Is that on there? Oh, I'm sorry. On the modified agenda at the table, that would be item 4. I'm sorry, I was looking at one of my packets.
All right, and can you state that
Here, I
slower?
reduced it to writing, and I'd like to move that that's on consent as well. That information was in the board packet.
The proposed revision to the agenda is to place the following item on the agenda and on the consent agenda. That is the approval of the lowest and best bidder, Helena Chemical Company, for the herbicide program for 2012 for the city of Starkville in the amount of $7,795.20. That revision to the agenda has been reduced to writing, and I'm now presenting it to City Clerk. Any objection to the proposed revision? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter has been placed on the agenda and the consent agenda. Alderman Dibus, you have further proposed revisions?
I do. Under board business, item K, consideration of the approval of an interlocal agreement between the City of Starkville and Mississippi State University for a mass transit grant that will provide transportation between the City of Starkville and MSU. I'd like to move that to consent, and I would like to keep the presentation under public appearances on the agenda.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Dumas is to place item 10K, the approval of an interlocal agreement between the City of Starkville and Mississippi State University for a mass transit grant that will provide transportation between the City of Starkville and MSU as presented on the consent agenda. Alderman Dumas, is that your proposed revision?
It is.
Any objection? Do I hear any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Further proposed revision.
Under personnel, I'd like to add item 1 to consent.
Objection.
All right, that item will remain on the regular agenda.
I have no further revisions.
All right, are there any further revisions to the agenda from the members of the board? Any further revisions? Any further revisions? Seeing none, a motion. Alderman Carver.
Mayor, under personnel, I'd like to add item number 3 to the consent agenda if there are no objections.
All right, the proposed revision from Alderman Carver is to place item 11I3, the approval to advertise to fill a vacant position of cashier in the electric department as presented to the consent agenda. Alderman Carver, is that your proposed revision?
Yes, sir.
Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, that matter's been placed on the consent agenda. Alderman Carver, do you have further proposed revision?
Yes, sir. I'd like to, under personnel, add item 5, request approval to hire Adam Go as a staff assistant or a staff accountant for the electric department.
Objection.
All right, that item will remain on the regular agenda. Alderman Carver, do you have further proposed revision?
Yes, I'd like to, under personnel, if there are no objections, add on item 6, request approval to hire Stephanie Howard to fill the position of deputy city clerk with responsibility for payroll in the city clerk's office.
Objection.
All right, that item will remain on the regular agenda. Alderman Carver, do you have further proposed revisions?
Yeah, I'll try one.
Alderman Parker.
We'll try under personnel, I-4, request approval of temporary pay increase for firefighter Helms acting in the role of acting sergeant per personnel policy.
I object. I'm going to have to recuse myself.
All right, are there any other proposed revisions? Any further proposed revisions? Do we have any further proposed revisions to the agenda as written? Any further proposed revisions? Seeing none, a motion to approve the agenda as revised is in order.
So moved.
Motion has been made by Alderman Corey to approve the agenda as revised. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. And that will take us to the approval of the consent agenda. Are there any objections to the approval of the consent agenda as revised? Any objections? Any objections? Any objections? Seeing none, the consent agenda as revised is approved. You now have before you the December 20th, 2011 minutes. Alderman Parker.
I've got a few changes, I think, and I'll need a little bit of the board's help, but under action item 21, a motion approving the purchase of the flags with a new logo. It has me marked as voting nay. I did vote yay, and I believe that was enough to carry it. So the mayor did not have to break the tie in that item.
All right. You have further proposed revisions?
And under item 22, the motion to approve appointing Bill Webb and Beatrice Reeves to the solid waste and Beatrice Reeves to the airport board. I believe this, Alderman Dumas, I believe, was absent during that vote.
I was.
And that would have, I think, the mayor would have broken the tie.
No.
No?
There were 2 absences. Who else was absent for that vote?
Ben was absent, okay.
Carver.
So 3-2, okay.
All right, are those your only proposed revisions?
There are.
Do you have a motion to approve with the revisions?
I so moved with revisions noted.
Alderman Parker has proposed revising the agenda, or has proposed approving the minutes from December 20th, 2011 with the following revisions, changing the vote of Alderman Parker to yea in action item number 21, and changing the voting record in action item number 22 to reflect that Alderman Dumas was absent. Alderman Parker, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Parker, do you wish to speak on the merits?
Do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in, did we get, we got a second, yeah. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. All right, I now have the pleasure of asking the state championship soccer team to come forward. If y'all could try to come in and fill this space up here. We're going to do a quick presentation, then we're going to try to get a picture as well. Yeah, just do the best you can. It's fine.
You're doing good covering him up. Y'all squeeze
It's fine. I'm going to come around. What is You aren't the first person that's wanted to do that. Well, as all of us are now jubilantly aware, our soccer team went down to Jackson this weekend and came back with a state championship. I'm going to present a proclamation here in a second, but I need to give credit where credit is due. Alderman Carver actually had the idea of inviting the soccer team in and making a special presentation here at the meeting tonight. So, Alderman, I'd like you to make some comments if you would.
Only comment I've got, first of all, I guess Coach Bennett played under and to Harvey Gordon, if he's in here, he started telling me a little bit about this team and just guys, I mean, it's one of the best things that Union can do is go to win a state championship. I'm proud of it. I know everybody in here is proud of it. I guess the last thing is who is the kid that's so fast that everybody's right about?
Y'all are all supposed to raise your hands.
All right, now I'm going to make a proclamation and we'll take a couple of pictures. This is a proclamation by the mayor of the city of Starkville, Mississippi, honoring the Starkville High male soccer team. Whereas, the City of Starkville Mayor Parker Wiseman and Board of Alderman do hereby recognize the Starkville High School boys soccer team on their recent accomplishment, finishing the year with a 14-3 record and winning the 5A Boys Soccer State Championship of 2012 on Saturday, February 4th, 2012. Whereas we formally recognize the leadership of the Starkville High School administration, Coach Bennett and his staff, managers of the team, and last but not least, players Wesley Albritton, Coleman Bergstorm, Dylan Butler, Alec Cartwright, Price Day, Justin Gandy, Justin Gordon, Darius Gunn, John Hainsey, Marv Hassan, Charlie Henderson, David Houston, Nathaniel Houston, Dylan Howard, Colby Howard, Marvin Hughes, Case Kingery, Lewis Maynard, Juan Salazar, J.R. Tomlinson, Addison Watson, Austin Wileman, and Taylor Wise. And whereas the Yellow Jackets defeated Oxford High School to advance to the soccer state championship game for the first time. Whereas the Yellow Jackets defeated Pascagoula High School in dramatic fashion, scoring the game's only goal with 5:13 remaining in the first half and holding on for a 1-0 victory. That one didn't get as much applause as I. Whereas this accomplishment was made possible by long hours of practice and many contributions both on and off the field. Now, therefore, I, Parker Wiseman, as mayor of the city of Starkville, do hereby proclaim the 4th day of February 2012 to be Starkville High School Soccer Team Day. All right, let's give them one more little lift.
Hey, Mr. Mayor, I want to make one comment.
Yeah, Alderman Ball.
Mr. Joseph Gardner is not a church member. One of my Sunday school students. But I like, y'all enjoy the whole because I'm a member of Starkville 1970 football team championship. So y'all enjoy the moment. This is a great moment.
Congratulations.
Congratulations, great job here.
Enjoy the moment. It's a good moment. Good moment. Mr. Hughes.
We're gonna get out of here. Good, how you doing? Good to see you.
All right, that will conclude my comments for this evening. We have one scheduled comment for the members of the board, and that is the announcement of the Employee of the Month by Alderman Vaughn.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Give me a great pleasure to introduce this employee to us. Employee of the Month, February 2012. LaShonda Malone, Starkville Fire Department. LaShonda Malone is the Employee of the Month for February 2012. LaShonda has been with the city of Starkville for 18 years and is the administrative assistant for the Starkville Fire Department. For many years, LaShonda is considered the voice of the fire department. If you have ever had the need to contact Starkville Fire Department, the first voice you hear is LaShonda, and you can guarantee she will do her best to solve any problem you may have. When you first speak to LaShonda, you can almost hear her kindness over the phone. LaShawna spent a lot of time dealing with unhappy citizens and upset homeowners. But she always managed to find the positive in any situation. She take personal interest in making sure each caller speak to the proper person or direct them to the appropriate department. No matter how hectic or chaos a situation may be, LaShawna can always be counted on for a smile and a positive attitude. LaShawna takes her job responsibility very seriously. Recently, LaShawna lost her son to cancer. During this difficult time, LaShawna refused to let her responsibility falter. As she took paperwork home to keep up with her work, this simple act shows her dedication to the fire department. The City of Starkville and Starkville Fire Department are proud to recognize LaShawna Malone as the Employee of the Month for February 2012. Employee of the Month in recognition of an outstanding performance. The City of Starkville, LaShawna Malone as Employee of the Month for 2012.
All right, do we have any further comments by the members of the board? Do we have any further comments by the members of the board? Any further comments? Seeing none, we'll move to citizen comments. At this time, any citizens wishing to make comments this evening may do so by coming forward, introducing yourself, and you'll be recognized to speak for a maximum of 3 minutes.
Thank you. Amanda Edwards, and I would just like to speak to y'all for just a second. May 11th, 1837, Starkville was founded. That means this year is the 175th year. If you're wondering, that's called a septuagennial. It doesn't roll off the tongue like a bicentennial. But nonetheless, various community members, including the Greater Starkville Development Partnership, have formed a steering committee, and we plan to celebrate our history with several special events beginning on May 11th, 2012 and ending May 11th, 2013. For example, May 11th, 2012 is a Friday night MSU home baseball game. It would be nice if the mayor or a representative of the board were there to throw out the first pitch. And we could have the kids in the stadium come down on the field and sing Happy Birthday, Starkville. In addition, we may have a parade later in the year. We have a lot of good ideas and things that we might do to celebrate for that year. We also plan to work with Alderman Dumas on a proclamation to cite several points of pride in our city and our accomplishments over the years. This proclamation will itself become a part of Starkville's history as a remembrance of how we endured and celebrated our history, just citing where we began and where we are now. We humbly ask for your support on the proclamation as well as your appearance at special events as we celebrate our history. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Thank you.
Further citizen comments?
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Al Turner, Ward 7. I want to recognize the vice mayor and Alderman Bond.
Thank you, Alvin.
Good afternoon.
The citizen also, since this is Black History Month, we would like to recognize our Alderman Bond, Alderman Perkins, Makita Outlaw, and Sharon Ball. You all are in our prayer. Citizens have a few concerns. This fee that they have to be paid, $2.50, $7, $5. That hurts when you don't have. And the other consideration that we have is we've been having a problem with cable jumping on and off, and it really is disturbing to the citizens.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Do we have any further citizen comments this evening? Any further citizen comments?
Trapped first by their bodies, then again by the people around them. One massive barrier wall stacked on top of another. The isolation must be crushing, yet there is that light in their eyes. How had they kept their spirits alive? What would they tell us if they had the power? An excerpt from Tim Lepin's book, Flying Colors.
Good evening, my name is Tiffany Hamlin, and I'm the Chair of Corrections for the Commission on Disability. Every year we give an Advocate of the Year award. We recognize a business, an individual, or a group who has gone above and beyond to help improve the quality of life for people who have disabilities in our community. And tonight, the Commission is excited to present the 2012 award to Miss Judy Duncan for her dedication to local artists in the program Express Yourself that is put on at the TK Martin Center. This program provides a means for Mississippians with the most severe disabilities to feel the power of self-expression through art. Trained individuals called trackers act as neutral arms executing the vision of the physically challenged through laser-guided tracking and other exacting technologies. Trackers use precise techniques to allow persons with the most minimal ability to move and create subtle, exacting works of art. So please give a round of applause for Ms. Judy as she accepts her award.
If I could just interject, if y'all have not seen any of this art, it's on display permanently at the TK Martin Center, and it's really quite remarkable. I'm sure they'd welcome your stopping by to visit and see.
Do we have any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Any further citizen comments? Seeing none, we'll move to public appearances. And we have 3 public appearances. Well, we have 2 public appearances and then a school board interview process tonight, but we'll hear that during the public appearance portion of the meeting. Our first public appearance is the annual report on the Commission on Disability from Tiffany Hamlin, the chair of the Commission on Disability.
Okay, so in your packets you have the updates, and I'm just going to give a few highlights. Under city government, we encourage the creation of the city's grievance procedure and the notice of accommodations. We conducted and completed ADA surveys of all city facilities and programs. Worked with the city engineer to add accessible parking signs to downtown and discuss accessibility of the new curb cuts. We also collaborated with the Parks and Recreation to make McKee Park's musical trail accessible. Assisted in the research and selection of a pool lift for Moncrief Park, which has been installed. Hosted a Disabilities Awareness Day at the community market and distributed handouts at the Diabetes Fair, which was put on by Octavia County Hospital. Hosted an ADA workshop for local contractors and architects, and I'm proud to say that there were 72 individuals who attended. Finalized ADA mandated transition plan. These are our goals for 2012. To finalize the ADA mandated transition plan for city facilities and programs and begin the transition plan. To continue to improve accessibility of parking and sidewalks in the city. Continue working with Starkville Parks and Recreation and the Starkville Transportation Committee. And our long-term goals are basically to continue to help make sure that programs and facilities in the city of Starkville are ADA compliant.
Do we have any questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Sistrum.
This might possibly be the only commission on disability in the state of Mississippi. It's certainly one of a few, if there are others. But they have worked to serve as an advisory group to the Board of Alderman, and they've worked with department heads as businesses have come forward and requested help. They've also helped there. But we're very proud of you keeping us on track, even if we are a little behind in what we're doing. We are moving in that direction, and what you do benefits not just those people who might be visibly in need of that help, but it helps our entire city by making things accessible to all of us, and we appreciate your work very much.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board?
Tiffany, I appreciate y'all working with the Transportation Committee as well. I know that Chris and all the work that committee does, and the pooling of your resources is now starting to make a big difference, and I really appreciate y'all's willingness to do that.
Any further questions or comments? Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you, Ms. Hamlin. Thank you for what you do. We'll now have a presentation by Mike Harris and Jeanette Bailey on the proposed grant opportunity for the Starkville MSU Area Rapid Transit, SMART. That's sponsored by Mississippi State University, and that entity, I guess, is now one step closer to existing with that being approved tonight.
First of all, I'd like to thank everyone for allowing us to come and speak today, and I'd like to thank the board for allowing us to come. This is a very important project that we think for our community. It's a way to connect us all together, to get us to the places we need to go, and to do it in a very economical and efficient way. Again, my information's up there. Feel free to call me anytime if you've got questions, and we'll have a short question and answer session as soon as I finish, if time allows. What we're really trying to do is connect the city into campus. We're looking for a green solution to traffic and congestion. Obviously, if you've been on Highway 12, you can understand the congestion level that we're seeing now, and the university's continuing to grow, the community's continuing to grow, and we believe this is the right time for us to unveil something that will hopefully diminish some of that traffic and congestion. Again, a photo of Highway 12, and that can be on any given day, as we all know, as we traverse around the city. On campus, it's really not any better, to be honest with you. This is a parking area on campus, and obviously continuing to pave over green spaces is not something we want to do as well. So we want to offer some transit opportunities to get students back and forth to campus as well. So that's part of what we're trying to do. The environment is always important. We all want to breathe clean air. So the more folks we get out of vehicles, get them into mass transit, we believe that's a way to help that carbon footprint and to help create a little better air quality in our community. What we're trying to do is really help with the overall quality of life of our community, Starkville area, and our campus as well, by combining a lot of areas into a system that everyone can really get around to. Go ahead, up to the next one. Shopping, banking, city services, post office, healthcare, public housing, recreation, high-density residential areas. We want to get a way that we can get to all of those without clogging up the roads, worrying about where we're going to park, and we believe this system will help to kind of connect all of those really major areas of our community together. This was a study that was done. Each of these colored area really represents about a quarter of a mile. So as you see these little dots inside these colored areas, that's kind of a center, and then you've got about a quarter of a mile radius. And what we tried to do is look at these density populated areas and pull them all together into a transit system. Obviously, we can't hit everything, but we wanted to try to hit as many as we could to make it work. So what we're really trying to do is have an efficient, economical, dependable, safe, and environmentally system. In other words, a smart system. So this is what we're going to kind of brand this idea. We think it's a good acronym for what we're trying to do. Starkville and MSU kind of coming together to make it work, and an area of rapid transit, so it will be known as the smart system going forward. 3 proposed routes. These are kind of the city routes and the extension of what we're doing on campus. We'll look at each of these individually. The campus and city connector will take the basically University Drive. Will come from the campus area. Right now, we'll be coming from the bookstore on campus. That'll be the starting location. We'll come down University Drive, making stops in the Cotton District area as we continue on towards the downtown area. The Presbyterian Church area would be another stop. On one end of Main Street, we'll go to the other end of Main Street, stop around the old electric department area. We'll look for a stop there to make that work. Come back around Lampkin Street and then head back east on University, making a stop around the Reeds area, Stromboli's, and then another stop in the Cotton District as we go back to the bookstore. This will be a back and forth situation. We'll have one bus on it. We look at that being about a 10 to 15 minute between buses as far as stops. So it could be very, very helpful for those folks who want to get from campus to the downtown area, maybe go to lunch one day, things like that. The city circular route is something we're trying to propose for the whole city area. We'll be hitting the medical facilities on Hospital Road. We'll also be going around the public housing areas, the Brickfire area, Chandler Apartments, coming down Reed Road, progressing on to 182, coming down to Stark Road area. There's some medical facilities as well there that we could certainly pull into those stops. Come down Stark Road, go to Walmart, have that as a stop, obviously. Come down to Industrial Road. I'm sorry, I passed up Kroger. We go to Kroger, the post office, then we come down to Industrial Road. And then we'll hit the Lynn Lane area to the Sportsplex, down to Louisville Street, Highway 25, going back towards Highway 12, making a right to the Piggly Wiggly area and the Pecan Acres area, servicing that location, and then down to Montgomery Street, back down to Main Street. So this will be a circular connector. We'll have 2 buses on this particular route, and they'll be running opposing each other. So one will be going one direction, one will be going the other direction, so you don't really have to wait and make this whole circle. If you're going somewhere, you just get on the other bus going in the other direction if that's closer. The Sportsplex route is something kind of connecting campus to the Sportsplex, hitting some key residential areas in there. We think that will help to get some folks on campus to the Sportsplex, kind of introduce them to those areas. A lot of folks on campus may not be aware of all the facilities that the city has to offer there. There's some wonderful facilities. I just don't think a lot of the students really know that they're there. So this is something that will kind of connect all of that stuff. And again, you've got your bigger residential areas coming down Lynn Lane. We'll make stops at the Grove and the rural areas as far as those apartments, and kind of connect all of that together and give that flow back and forth. Again, these are the 3 routes as you look at them together on a map that we're proposing off campus. These are the routes that we currently run on campus. This is what we run every day on campus, and we carry 3,800 to 4,000 students every day on those routes, so it's used heavily. When we integrate these 2 systems together, we're hoping that that integration will create a better transit model for everyone, connecting the city to the campus and the campus to the city, and then all of the things that the community has to offer as well as what the campus has to offer, and giving a dependable system that can get everyone to the different locations that they need to go. These are kind of the routes in a nutshell, kind of gives you an operational time and what we're trying to do. Again, that Campus City connector down University Drive will have 1 vehicle. It'll run from 7 o'clock in the morning to 6 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday through Saturday. The city circular route will have 2 buses on it running those same times, Monday through Saturday. The Sportsplex route and the campus route is just a little bit different. It doesn't run Saturday. And the reason for that is really campus opens up on Saturday. There's ample parking. You can kind of get around. But we want to still run that city route, and we want to still run that connection to give those folks that opportunity to get around on Saturdays. We currently have a GPS system on all of our buses that we run on campus. It's real time. It's updated every 4 to 5 seconds. So as you come into one of our shelters now, you see these particular signs that show the routes, and it shows the time that the next bus will be arriving for that route. These are the same exact signs that we would be installing in the shelters that we put around the city as well. Okay. This shelter is what we have on campus. We like the fixed shelter area a lot better than some of the things we've looked at. What we're trying to do is create a permanence to this thing. This is not a overnight, fly-by-night situation. This is something we want to actually grab root and grow. And in order to do that, we think you've got to have those shelters in those areas. We think people need to understand, where can I go get on the bus, and when is the bus going to be here to get me? Those are 2 main questions that we really answer in what we're trying to do here with the GPS system and then the permanent shelters. This kind of gives you an idea of where the stops will be. Again, I've kind of gone over these real fast. I know, I'm not sure how much time I got, but anyway, you can look at those, and again, we can add some to those. We can take some of those off. And this will always be a living and breathing situation. It will always be tweaked because we have automatic counters on our buses, and it tells us how many folks get on at every stop. It tells us when those people get on at every stop. So by looking at all that data and doing the metrics on it, you can find out, do I need to add another bus on this route? Do I need to pull a bus off of this route? When is my peak times? When is my valley times? And that helps in the efficiency of what you're doing as far as the cost for running a bus. Operating a bus is approximately $10,000 a month to operate a bus, so they're not real cheap. So we want to do everything we can to make it as efficient as we can and still do the service level that we think we need to be at. And of course, as you can see, this bus here has the lift door on the left and the back. Every bus that we have on this route will be ADA. So we want to make sure that we offer that service to everyone. And all they would have to do is, all of our drivers will certainly know what they're doing as far as the ADA. They're qualified on that. As far as tie downs and all that, and they go through classes. So this is something we want to offer to all of our citizens, and we hope everyone takes advantage of it. Based upon an interlocal agreement, I believe that was brought up earlier in the meeting, what we're looking for the city as far as their help in this situation is the right-of-way, the easements. We really need those if we're going to put shelters in these areas. The electricity, we would need to those shelters for lighting and also for the ETA signs, the estimated time of arrival signs that we would need. The concrete shelter pads will furnish the shelter, but we would need those concreted pads placed for us so that we could place those shelters on there. Obviously, we would need garbage cans and bins in these areas, and then we would obviously expect the city to maintain and upkeep those as we do on campus. You know, that would fall to the city. I know I kind of went through that real quick. Again, I wasn't sure how much time I had, but I'll certainly take any questions or comments that you want to have on it.
Any questions or comments from Alderman Dumas?
You want to talk real quick about the actual grant application, some timelines there, and what this actually means?
Sure. We are currently working on that. March 4th is the actual date that we have to submit that grant. If we are lucky enough and blessed enough to get it, we'll know that probably in the June timeframe, and the award would be October 1st. So if we do, and if we are successful in that, the earliest possible time we could roll this out would be January 2013. However, more realistically, I really believe it's going to be later in that summer or that fall of 2013. It takes approximately 120 days to get a bus from the day you order it, because they build these. They're not on a lot somewhere where you go buy them. They build them to your specifications when you order. So it takes an amount of time to get those buses, which we're really going to need that time anyway, to get the message out, to make sure we get the shelters in place, to make sure our GPS systems are all set for this particular area. So there's a lot of things that really kind of need to fall in place. So quite honestly, I would think that fall of 2013 would really be when we'd do it. But if everything falls perfectly, we could possibly do it January 2013.
And these are MDOT 5311 monies.
That's correct. It's the MDOT 5311 Public Transit Grant. They match 50% of operational funds, and they match 80% of the capital investment funds. And then we, the university, would be the matching funds to that grant.
Further questions or comments? Alderman Corey.
Yeah. Is the data from the previous transit system back in about 2005, 2006 that the city and university did jointly being taken into consideration with this so that we can...
Most definitely. Most definitely. Back then, as you may recall, it was more of a flag and ride situation. So you really never knew where to go get on the bus, and you really never knew when the bus was coming, to be honest. We've answered those questions in what we're proposing now. We've kind of learned from some of that, I guess you'd say crawling before you walk situation. So we've taken all of those things that didn't work correctly, and hopefully we've answered those with the GPS system and putting these permanent shelters in place and giving a schedule of when the buses are going to be there. So we hope that that's going to really answer those questions.
Okay. And another question, if I may. Will these buses be equipped with any sort of attachments for cyclists who maybe want to take their bikes to a point and then...
We will have bicycle racks on the front, which will accommodate up to 4 bikes.
Okay.
Further question?
Yeah, I guess it's a question / comment, but I guess my only hesitant piece to this would be your methodology. You know, if you go start putting in these concrete pads and whatnot, and then you go and tweak, and I mean, how do you think y'all can do that? Can you, for a little while, maybe just not have a shelter for 6 months, or will you put the pads in first and more? Because you know, once you put that in, that's basically a lifetime, installment. It's going to be there for years and years, regardless of whether this works or not. So, what do y'all think?
Well, we're not saying put pads at every single stop.
Right.
We're saying put pads at those stops that, in our opinion, are going to be those bedrock stops.
Yes, sir.
Obviously, some places will just have a sign. Other places we won't put a shelter at all, such as the hospital and areas like that, because you've already got your overhang, you've already got your areas to be out of the weather. So these won't go up at every single stop, but we certainly would like to at least put those in our cornerstone areas of the route and then build from there.
Okay.
Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments? Well, Mike, thank you so much for all you've done, and to all the members of the joint MSU Starkville committee that have been working on this, thank you for all your hard work. I think y'all have done an excellent
Absolutely.
job.
It's been a joint effort from the start, and we appreciate all the help we've gotten from the city.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, looks like we got some transition in and out of the room. We'll give everybody a moment. And the next item on our agenda is going to be the interviews of our school board candidates. While we are clearing the room, I just say a special word of thanks to all of you for applying. This is a very, very difficult process. Interviewing in front of a board with the newspaper here and the public watching. You're incredibly courageous for coming forward and doing this, and it shows a great amount of dedication to our school system. So thank you very much. And just a little housekeeping before we start the interviews. This is a public meeting. I cannot compel anybody to leave the room, but it is rather awkward to conduct interviews for anything with people that are also interviewing for the position still in the room. So I always encourage you, as a courtesy, if you would like to, your fellow applicants to not be in the room while one of your fellow applicants interviews. But that is completely a personal decision that's up to each of the applicants. We will interview in alphabetical order, and Alderman Dibble.
Because my wife is with the school district, I need to recuse myself.
Yep.
And Alderman Vaughn did not notify you, but he did as well.
Yeah.
You got that for the
Y'all were
record?
both waving at me.
Noted for the record. Yeah.
All right, we'll do these in alphabetical order. I will give each of you an opportunity to make a statement for a maximum of 5 minutes at the outset of the interview, and then we will proceed with questions from the members of the board. So we'll begin with our first interview, Doug Bedsall. And Mr. Bedsall, would you like to make any opening comments?
Yes, please. Mayor, Board of Alderman, pleasure to see you all again. To start, I'd like to say that I am aware that demographics and representation on the school board is something to be considered this year, as it has been very carefully over the last few years. Nonetheless, I'm here, as I was last year, to make a case for myself on the school board. So I'll continue with that. I was here last year, I'm back. I'm back with more experience in the school district, more volunteer hours with the school district, and even more drive to work for the health of the district and the community. I have over 600 hours of volunteer work actually in the buildings of the schools. Most of that is due to my teaching martial arts and the elementary school PE program at Sudeth. Those hours don't include the various meetings, events, and fundraisers for both the Starkville Foundation for Public Education and the Parents and Teachers Association. Those hours are also quite numerous. With the PTA at Henderson Ward Stewart, I organized the Hard Work Cafe, which is a program put in place before my time that honors and recognizes those students who put in the extra effort and work to land themselves on the A and B honor roll, and to do so without any disciplinary infractions. This last occurrence of that was at the end of the previous 9-week period. And I was pleased to bring in Josh Winter, who is an instructor of physics at MSU. And he came in and had an amazing demonstration of physics and principles, most noticeable of which was with the use of liquid nitrogen. Obviously, this is a very popular program with the kids, something they enjoy. The idea of the program is not only to reward those kids who put in the extra effort, but also to let them strive for something even greater. Let them know that there's some value out of school beyond doing what it is that they're driving over and over every day in their class. That there's something else that they can learn that they're not seeing every day. So we want to inspire them to do so. I'm currently the president of the Starkville Foundation for Public Education. I've been with the organization for a few years, and this is my first year as president. Our fundraising goal for 2012 is $35,000. For that $35,000, we intend to use 15 of that for scholarships for graduating seniors, 15 of it for teacher grants, by which they will apply to us and compete for those grants and be awarded by a committee. Another 5,000 of which we're going to keep out for special projects as those needs come up during the school year. For example, we recently provided some funding for the theater competition trip in Mississippi. To take from the mission statement of the foundation, we hope to support innovative and dynamic education that inspires and empowers the Starkville School District community. There's a few things that I take from that mission statement that apply to me personally and to my application for the school board. First of all, there are many outside groups that want to help our district, whether it's the foundation, the PTA, whether it's social organizations such as Rotary and Toastmasters, educational organizations, of which there are many on the university campus, and even businesses who realize that they have a vested interest in this community. So we need to take advantage of the help that those groups are willing to offer. Second thing I take from this mission statement is that we believe, and I believe personally, that the teachers in the classroom know best how to help those students. Not only are they instructed and required to teach from the Mississippi frameworks for education, but they know best how to apply those to specific situations. They know best how to take the students that are in that classroom and get to them so that they can learn the concepts and accordingly do well on the tests. So we want to provide funds for those, grants for those, support for those. We want to support those teachers. That's my hope to do on the school board position. To be there as a member of the school board, to help provide standards, to help provide frameworks, to help provide structure, but ultimately to allow the teachers to best do their job in their classroom. A couple of things that I've noted that are good and need improvement in our school district. We have excellent gifted programs. We have a PEAK program and Viva for art. I've already mentioned the numerous community members and organizations that like to support our public schools, and that definitely needs to continue. Some of the things that are improving is our test scores in the district and our communication. We've had communication issues over time between the administration and parents, teachers and parents, administrations and teachers, and those things are starting to improve. So I would like those to continue to improve, and I think that they will. Some of the things that need more work, we continually need more work on our test scores. I realize that that is unpopular with a lot of parents. The fact of the matter is that some of our funding and definitely our reputation come from our test scores. So while the test score shouldn't be the end all of our educational system, it is something that needs to be worked on. And our communication and facilities also need to be worked on in our district. I do believe we have a very strong district. I'm here applying for the school board so I can do everything I can to make it even stronger.
All right, do we have any questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions or comments from the members of the board? Any questions? Alderman Sistrum.
I'll break the ice. As an active and an involved parent, I'm sure you've formed an opinion about what you think makes an effective and successful school board member. As we interview y'all tonight and look for that next appointment to the school board, what are 2 to 3 characteristics you'd like to see in that next school board member? And if you'd like to speak to how you fit with that, I'd like to hear more.
2 things that stand out right away as far as what makes them a great school board member. One is cooperation, and one is approachability. Okay, cooperation. Obviously, as you are members of a board, you have your own opinion, you have your own standpoint, where you see a particular issue from your perspective. But you need to be cooperative in how you communicate with the other members of the board and with the public. You need to be able to see that there's not only one perspective, that there are many. I think that I have shown that in the various capacities that I've served in. I continue to do so as the president of the foundation. I don't lead this organization single-handedly, but I work as a member of a board. The other area I mentioned is approachability. While school board members can only act as a group, they can be approachable at all times. And if there's a member of the community that needs input, that has agreements they would like to air, they can approach a member of the school board at any time. And I've shown over and over that I'm definitely a person that can do that.
Further questions from the members of the board? Alderman Carver.
I guess it's a simple question. One of our biggest complaints we get or grievances about the school board is maybe approachability, like you're saying, and then convenience and a working relationship between parents and the school board. So I guess that's my question. Do you consider yourself to be an approachable person? I think I already know the answer to that, but, I mean, is that something you'd be able to, available at all hours for contact with parents who've got questions and things like that?
Sure. As many of you know, I work at the movie theater. In the course of my business there, I interact with parents on a daily basis, and they were free to talk about whether it's school board issues or anything else. I talk with business leaders about both business and education all the time because they know the various capacities I do serve in. My email, my phone number, they're all listed on various websites and social media sites already. I would say a good number, maybe not a majority because I don't know everyone in town, but a good number of the population of the city already knows how to get in touch with me and are free to do so.
Further questions?
Mr. Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Good evening, Mr. Bissall. I have numerous questions, and I want very specific and to the point answers. Let me just give a little preface. I'm going to give all of the applicants the same questions, and I came here not within the decision made. This is a very important position. The school board and the school system has been in the news for the last year or more, and this is a very important appointment to this community and to the Starkville School District. And the community deserves to know as much as we can about each applicant that is applying for this 5-year term, because as we all know at this table and in this room and in this community, that once you get on this board, you know, the person is on the board. I mean, there are basically no avenues basically for removal. And there have been a multitude of things that have faced our community. So I'm going to indicate the question. You may have answered it. I got 17 questions, okay? Now, I want you to be very specific and to the point, and if you answer the question, I'll acknowledge that. I think you have already answered some of them. And I think you, and I've read your presentation. You don't need to read that to me. I've read that. I already know about you, okay? And I heard your presentation. And I think the first question I have is why you desire to be a member of the Starkville School District Board of Trustees. I think you've answered that already. And is there anything else you want to add to that?
Just to reiterate that small section, like I said, I recognize certain things that are very good about the district, and I think that I would love to be a part of the board that helps to make them even better.
Okay, and of course we have 3 other applicants. And why should the Board of Alderman appoint you to serve on the Starkville School Board?
I've proven through my time, my dedication and commitment to the school and to the school district community, and I think that record speaks for itself.
Is there anything else that you want to add as to what are your specific goals and objectives, if any, if you are appointed to the Starkville School Board?
Well, I recognize that the board as a whole and individual members do not dictate policy. They can help on policy, and they can revise policy and approve it. But I would like to set goals for the district. And the goals that I would like to see is I would like to see our district and each school in the district as a high-performing school under the state standards. And we have a little ways to go to get there.
Is there anything else you want to add as to what are the strengths, if any, of the Starkville School District? You mentioned some. Is there anything else you want to add?
I've had experience with certain administrators in the district, school administrators, and I know they're doing a fantastic job. Mr. Bourne, for example, at Henderson, has accountability standards in place that his teachers and students and parents are well aware of, and he's doing an amazing job with that, and I believe that when we get test scores back next year, that the evidence will be very clear.
You mentioned some already. What are the weaknesses, if any additional ones, of the Starkville School District?
I think communication traditionally has been a weakness, and from what you've said, I believe you understand that. But I already see that it is changing. Some of the way that they've gone about, this current school board has gone about pursuing a new superintendent has been more open with the public. It could possibly be slightly more open, but I think they have recognized that the communication is lacking, and they are starting to fix that. From the district administration itself, on their website and what they call the key communicator network of emails, they've started to do a much better job with communication, but I still think there's a long way to go.
Now, my next question, how do you propose for the Starkville School District to improve its weaknesses? And I think you just answered that in your explanation just then. What are your thoughts, if any, as to how transparency and accountability should factor into matters and things that involve and relate to the Starkville School Board and the Starkville School District?
Well, obviously, as any board operates, there will be some issues that have to be considered in executive session. Those should be very limited. There's a very limited definition in any board's bylaws and in legal standards of what is considered an executive session, and that would be employment and legal matters. Anything outside of that, I think, should be as open to the public as possible. The minutes should be posted on websites, agenda on websites, if possible, have sessions filmed, have board meetings in the largest room possible to allow as many members in to see as they can.
What policy, if any, do you think that the school board should have with regard to receiving and hearing comments and suggestions from its public, citizens, and taxpayers at its board meetings?
I think the public should be encouraged to address their grievances. They should be encouraged to speak to the board as a whole and to the board members, and to be able to do so in a public manner. There should be, there simply has to be some pragmatic limitations to that, just to be able to get through a board meeting in an evening. But I don't think that public citizens should be discouraged at all. We should post the speaking limit so that people know how long they have to speak, but essentially have an unlimited speakers list at every board meeting.
What qualification experience do you think that a person should possess to be hired as superintendent of the Starkville School District?
I think experience is extremely important. Experience in other districts, possibly either at the assistant superintendent or superintendent level, is very helpful. Experience in administration, at least at the school level, I think is an absolute minimum. I would say communication skills and familiarity with accountability standards. We had a presentation last night, in case you were not able to attend, of the 2 superintendent finalists that the board is currently looking at. Both of them mentioned some of the accountability standards, the way that they keep up in their particular school districts. I think one had a more thorough job of a multitude of tests, and some of these are not tests given to students that necessarily feel like tests. These are tests given on computers or interactive tests. And I think that the individual who is looking for a superintendent job definitely needs to have a familiarity with all sorts of accountability standards so that they can really see what's going on within a classroom and within each individual student.
What matters, if any, is of ultimate concern to you at this time regarding the Starkville School District?
Well, obviously, this current superintendent search is going to be a big deal for the district. I do believe it's going to be matter before the new school board member takes a seat, but that will be rather large. The Common Core curriculum, there's the new frameworks and new standards that are coming. Doesn't take place for another year, but that is going to be very large. The state standards that we currently go under, the MCT2 tests, those are changing every year. Fan or not of the tests, we have to raise our standards as a district to meet those standards, and those standards are continually raising. So that is an ongoing concern.
Next question, very brief. Should a member of the school board be involved in daily operation of the school district?
No.
Should a member of the school board be involved in any manner in any micromanagement of the Starkville School District?
No.
And if you appoint, I'm sure that you would comply with your answer. Is that correct? Okay. If you're appointed to serve on the Starkville School Board, exactly what act or action, if any, do you intend to take to promote the overall best interest and welfare of the Starkville School District?
Well, I would get together with my board members and have a dialogue with them about what we can do. Then ultimately it comes down to that communication between the board and the newly hired superintendent, and encouraging that superintendent to go out, communicate everything. That superintendent is the one that will be in charge of the public relations and the administration, but encouraging that superintendent to do everything they can to publicize how good of a district we really are.
4 final questions. What is the role and duties of the member of the school board?
Personnel decisions come up before the school board. Policies submitted by the superintendent come up before the school board. And those are things that need to be very specifically looked at. Sometimes they have been, sometimes they've not.
What's the role and duty of the superintendent?
To manage all personnel, to manage some of which can be delegated to their two assistant superintendents that we have in this district, but to manage the personnel and curriculum and transportation of the district.
What is the role and duty of the principal?
In some manner, to manage their personnel, so the teachers and janitorial and cafeteria staff within their building, to ensure that the curriculum is being instructed as it is supposed to be, and to promote the welfare of their students.
Finally, how do these roles interrelate?
All four of the positions you mentioned, school board, superintendent, principals, have some shared responsibilities, and that they're promoting the welfare of the students and of the community, but they each know what their own responsibility is. And so they each know how specific they can get within their own field. One of the keys is letting those individuals do exactly what they need to do and not stepping on their toes, not getting in their way.
Thank you, Mr. Betzoff, for your response. Mayor Badon.
Are there any further questions from the members of the board? The city attorney has some procedural questions that he needs to run through.
Mr. Betzoff, these are going to seem obvious to you, but I just need to touch the bases to make sure you would be statutorily eligible to serve should the board so choose you. Are you employed in any way by the city?
No, sir.
And do you serve as a member of the County Board of Education?
No.
And are you a trustee of any public, private, or religious school or college in Oktibbeha County or Starkville?
No, sir.
And do you teach in any manner in the Starkville Public Schools?
No, sir.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Seeing no further questions, thank you, Mr. Betzoff.
Thank you.
Chantea, could you send in Sylvia Bird? And Ms. Bird, do you have any introductory comments you'd like to make?
I can. I'll keep them brief. My name is Sylvia Bird, and I am employed as a Mississippi State in the Department of Food Science, Nutrition, and Health Promotion. I have worked over the last 10 years as an advocate because I believe that health is very important to academics and that the data shows that. I've worked with the Starkville School District as a parent. I have 2 children, a freshman at Starkville High School, Sarah, and a 7th grader at Armstrong Middle School, Anna. And my husband and I moved here from North Carolina probably 24 years ago and have lived here longer than we have any other place. When I first moved here, it struck me as being odd when parents would tell me that they would spend the night or go really early in the morning to secure the teachers that they wanted. And having not come from a school district that had done things like that, I thought that was a little unusual because I would assume that all of our teachers are high quality and high performing teachers. And so as I worked in the community and got to know more people in the community and got involved with the school districts and our school district and the schools and had children that entered those schools, I began to see a lot of the challenges that our school district faces. Just recently, and having had a child in the school district now for 9 years, just recently we had a speaker on campus at Mississippi State from LSU, and she spoke on metacognition. And she asked 2 questions, and these were primarily academicians, and I've spent my whole career, over 25 years, teaching, and if there's one thing I'm passionate about, it's teaching. And she asked this question in this room of academicians. She said, what do most of your teachers in high school do the day before a test? She asked us to answer that question, so I'm thinking, review maybe. And then she said, what do you think they do during that activity? And I thought, review the key points that students should know. And then she asked us, what grade would you have made on the test if you went to class only the day before a test? In her research, the students answered that question that they would have made a B. If they had only gone to class the day before the test. Now, I'm old, or getting older, and that certainly wasn't the case when I was a student. So I went to my large section class that I teach at Mississippi State with 291 students in it the following class period, and I asked those same questions. What did your teachers do the day before a test? They reviewed. What did your teachers do in that activity? They went over the test. What grade would you expect to make if you only went to class the day before the test? And some of them answered C, most of them answered B. I'm here tonight because I believe our vision for the Starkville School District should be one of high expectation for student achievement and quality instruction. That we should have open communication and engagement of our community stakeholders, our parents, our administrators, our teachers, and our students, in order for all of us to be successful and for our children to be successful in our school district. I strongly believe that we need to be using data to establish clear goals to achieve that vision. I believe that we need to adopt policies to ensure goals are met. And I think we need to measure our success against the achievement of those goals. In the 10 years that I've been here working on healthy schools, I was quickly noted as the cupcake hater because I was astonished at the amount of sugar that came into our school district. 10 years, $299,000 brought into the school district to work on health as academic. And we still have cupcakes coming into school. Why? Because we have no policy in the school district to eliminate sweets. And I don't want anyone to think I'm a cupcake hater, but I believe that you can reward and recognize children without using food. The literature shows that our children have access to those foods and we need to limit those. So that's one example of how we can use data, we can use policy, and help to create a healthier environment for our children. After all, it is part of our mission statement for the school district.
We'll now hear questions from the members of the board. Do we have any questions?
I have an easy one for you, but there are more coming. As an active and an involved parent, I'm sure that you have formed an opinion about what makes an effective and a successful school board member. Could you identify 2 to 3 characteristics that you think we as a board should be looking for as we make an appointment tonight, and tell us how you relate to those 2 to 3 characteristics?
Okay. Certainly, Alderman Sitstrom. My father was a school board member in Union County for 12 years, from the time I was in middle school through my high school career. And one thing that I learned from a mother who taught for 45 years in public school, that to be a school board member, you need to have a strong conviction about public education and how important it is to our economy and to our success of our children. We need to have ability to make decisions. For those individuals who know me, I have the courage to make hard decisions, and I try to always guide my decisions by doing the right thing. Not always popular, because I stand up for what I believe is right. I think that that's a key ability. I think to have respect for the school staff and administration is another key point that the Board of Aldermen and Mayor should be looking for. Communication skills and an openness to work collaboratively with our stakeholders, with the community. I don't see a position on the school board being a self-position, but being one of a team that represents the community in the Starkville School District.
Thank you.
Further questions? Do we have any further questions from the members of the board?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Perkins.
Good evening, how are you? I have at least 17 questions, and I'm going to be very brief. Just want to try to explore and have a conversation with each of you to find as much as we can before we make this appointment to this very important position. Of course, I think you already indicated why you desire to be a member of the school board, and of course we have 3 other applicants. What distinguishes you from the others as to why should we appoint you to serve on the school board?
Alderman Perkins, that's an excellent question. As a parent, I would be pleased if any of my three applicants were chosen. I think that all three of us have very different gifts that we will bring to the board, but I think all four of us are outstanding applicants for the position. So what sets me aside, I've worked with the school board, I've worked with the schools, administrators, I've worked with principals. I think that my goal to bring health and to make that a real living aspect. Pat Owen Cooper, who was the superintendent in Macomb School District, looked at data for his school district and identified those child care centers that children came from that were low performing. And he invited them to come to a forum, and in doing so, some of the providers didn't think that they needed to come, and he said, well, I'll run your kids' test scores the next day. Those are tough decisions, but I think sometimes we need to be looking at those type of tough decisions, and I think I have the capability to make those tough decisions.
Next, what else, if anything, you want to add as to your goals and objectives, if any, if you're appointed to the Starkville School Board? Is there anything else you'd like to add on that?
No, I just think I'm a team player, and I'll work towards open communication and being a team member with the other board members.
What are the strengths, if any, of the Starkville School District based on your knowledge?
I think we have a lot of strengths. We saw those tonight. I have a child that's involved in athletics. I think we have a tremendous opportunity for our students to be involved in athletics. I have two daughters who played strings, and the arts program is a tremendous program, music and arts, and I love the part that the school district is supportive of those programs, even in financial times. I think that we have outstanding teachers and that we have outstanding administrators, and I think that it's a great opportunity to be working in a situation where you want to serve on the school board and work to help raise that level of performance.
Based on your knowledge, what are the weaknesses, if any, of the Starkville School District?
I think right now that we're a divided school district. I think that there have been things, I can remember, to my surprise, my daughter signed the petition against school uniforms. And I can remember thinking, school uniforms is the least of our worries. What we need to be concerned about is our children performing. And as a parent, maybe I was not very focused on that issue because I was looking at the big picture. I want my children to be able to solve problems. I work every day with products out of this school district and other school districts, and I know as an educator, our children are coming less and less prepared, and it is our responsibility to ratchet that up and to work and give our children the skills and the goals or education that they need to be prepared to come to college. And I really believe that that starts in preschool, literacy from birth to college, how important reading is, and starting our children early, not only from nutritional but from the educational standpoint.
What are your thoughts, if any, as to how transparency and accountability should factor into matters and things that involve and relate to the Starkville School Board and the Starkville School District?
Well, there's no doubt that I think that this position, in any elected position or appointed position, should be accountable to the constituency that you serve. I think that decisions that we make that are allowable, that don't have to be covered in executive session, should be very transparent. And I would hope that if elected to this position, that I would seek input, and that people, parents, teachers, administrators would feel comfortable coming to me as a member to say, I have this concern. I know as a parent, I've not been above calling school board members, whether it was Dr. Taylor or Dr. Coble, and asking for concerns or sharing concerns. In fact, my husband and I wrote a concern about the uniform policy that resulted in it being changed or modified. So I think that that's part of being an advocate. That's part of being a parent, is working together to achieve a common goal. And I think that there is common ground, but I think that we've been divided, and I think that that's something that that the school board has to work for. We have to become a united team, and it's not the school board against the school district, it's us together.
What policy, if any, do you think that the school board should have with regard to receiving and hearing comments and suggestions from the public, citizens, and taxpayers at its board meetings?
Well, I'm thinking technology, that there's a lot of comments that are made by parents on Twitter and Facebook in terms of having a public forum where parents appear before school board meetings. I think that parents should be allowed to be able to present opinions. I think that it's more effective to have focus groups and to have committees set up where there's an important decision on a policy going to be voted, not to send it through the board for its first reading and then to vote upon it the second time, that those decisions should have been open. And I think that using the uniform policy, had there been open discussion, rather than just a real quick survey that came and parents had the opportunity to give input, that might not have been such a divisive policy.
What qualification and experience do you think that a person should possess to be hired as superintendent of the Starkville School District?
Qualifications, having attended the meeting last night and listened to our two candidates for the school board, I think the number one qualification that a school board superintendent should, or a school superintendent should have, is to be a fair and honest individual. I think second of all, that they need to be versed in technology and how that's changing, look at the future in terms of not preparing students for today, but looking at our kindergarten students and what will the world be like in 12 years when they're graduating and looking at jobs and preparing those students to take those jobs. I remember recently helping one of our girls with homework and thinking, I didn't do this kind of math in 7th grade. I did that in high school. And that's changing so rapidly as we look at Common Core. It's going to change because the jobs our students are taking are requiring skills that are different from the skill sets that I graduated with. But a challenge that we have is that our children are coming out with less experiential learning, and they're not prepared for those, for college or for those jobs.
What matters, if any, is of ultimate concern to you at this time regarding the Starkville School District?
I think two concerns that I would share that I have regarding the Starkville School District is I strongly believe that the school district is teaching to the test, and I have no tolerance for that. I think that we should be teaching children how to learn, how to think, how to be self-sufficient, but we shouldn't teach them how to take tests. And I've seen that with my own children. They come home, they're tired, they're worn down. It's test after test after test. And like I shared with you in my introduction, Dr. McGuire shared with us, if your pay raise was dependent upon your test score, if your livelihood, teachers losing their jobs were based on that, how far would you go? In my opinion, I believe if we focus on student learning and quality instruction, the STAR level will be the benefit of that. We need to focus on our students' needs. We need to focus on where they are, their learning styles, and moving them forward.
Should a member of the school board be involved in the day-to-day operation of the Starkville School District?
No, it's not the role of the school board.
And basically answer the next question, but let me just ask it. Should a member of the school board be involved in any manner in the micromanagement of the Starkville School District?
Absolutely not.
If you're appointed to serve on the Starkville School Board, exactly what action or action, if any, do you intend to take to promote the overall best interest and welfare of the Starkville School District?
Well, I hope I would continue my passion and advocacy for the Starkville School District. I hope that I would be open to comments of parents and that I would be listening, that I would listen to what they say and hear what they say, and that I would make those decisions to implement goals and policies that would provide quality education for our for our students and quality instruction.
My final set of questions. What is the role and duties of the member of the Starkville School Board?
What are the roles? Our roles are to adopt policies, to set goals, to manage the financial budget for the school district. I would think that we are always to be an advocate and to promote the Starkville School District, to support our administration, superintendents and teachers, and to be open to working collaboratively with our stakeholders. I don't think of right now.
What is the role and duties of the superintendent?
The role of the superintendent is to make sure that the vision, the goals established by the school board are adhered to and achieved. And I would hope that they would use data to make those decisions and to motivate the teachers and to work with the teachers to help children achieve to the highest level that they can.
And what's the role and duties of the principal?
The role and duties of the principal are to follow the instructions of the superintendent based on the goals set forth from the school board members, and to maintain the day-to-day runnings of the school, and to work with parents. And they should serve as that first level past the teachers, and to provide guidance to our teachers.
Finally, how do these roles interrelate?
You can't have one without the other. One thing that I learned early on in my career is the person who drives the school bus, and I was a school bus driver, is just as important as the person who gets to school early and prepares the school breakfast, is just as important as the superintendent or the teachers or the principal. There is no division by status, that everyone is a team, and without all working together, pulling the same direction, that team won't move forward.
Ms. Byrd, thank you. Mr. Mayor, you have the floor.
Thank you, Alderman Perkins.
Are there any further questions from the members of the board? Any further questions? Seeing none, I know the city attorney has some questions that he needs to ask procedurally.
Okay.
And Ms. Byrd, these are just to make sure you would be statutorily eligible to serve should you be selected by the board. Do you live within the Starkville city limits?
Yes, sir, I do.
And are you employed in any manner by the city?
No, sir, I'm not.
And are you a member of the County Board of Education?
No, sir, I'm not.
And are you a trustee or a board member of any public, private, or religious college or school in Oktibbeha County or Starkville?
No, sir.
And do you teach in any manner in the Starkville public school system?
No, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Byrd.
Thank you.
Ms. Thompson, do you have any introductory comments you'd like to make?
Well, I've been here in Starkville since about '95. I had my first child in 2000, and I've been in Starkville School District since 2005, doing any and everything I can, just whatever my children have. I'm there as a participant or active parent.
All right, we'll now proceed to questions and comments from the members of the board. Are there any questions or comments from the members of the board? Alderman Sistrum.
We've been asking the same question of each of the applicants.
Okay.
And the first one has come from me, which is, as an active and an involved parent, I'm sure you formed an opinion about what makes an effective and a successful school board member. Could you give us 2 to 3 traits that you hope that we will be looking for in our appointment to the school board, and tell us how you will live into those traits?
I think one strength, going to a few of the school boards, I think maybe we always have a parent representative to speak out on behalf. I think sometimes we need a teacher, maybe more so the principal, to come out and speak to the board about upcoming grades or what they're looking for our children to have in the first 9 weeks. I think they should make a appearance or so at the school board meetings. I think that would be one strength I would like to see. Another strength I would like to see more parents come out to maybe advocate on their child's behalf of what's going on in the system, what they would like to see improved.
Thank you.
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Thompson, good evening. I have 17 questions. I'm trying to find out and have a conversation about all the applicants as best as I can as we get ready to make this appointment to this very important position. I read your letter. I think you've answered why you desire to be a member of the school board. Why should the Board of Alderman appoint you in light of the fact that we have 3 other applicants to serve on the school board? What's distinctive about yourself that connotates our appointing you?
Since I've been in Starkville, I think I've built many relationships with parents, with teachers, pastors, church members. I'm very outgoing. I mean, I like to bring my children out to all kinds of events, whatever is applicable for us to come out to. I just like to meet people, greet people, find out what they're about, what's going on. I'm just involved, and I want my children to be involved.
What else would you like to add at this time as to what are your goals and objectives, if any, if you're appointed to the Starkville School Board?
Well, just to, follow policy and procedures of the school board. I don't want to try to run the school or run the board. I would just like to see, I guess, structures followed.
What are the strengths, if any, of the Starkville School District based on your knowledge?
I'm sorry.
What are the strengths of the Starkville School District, if any, based on your knowledge?
They have great technology. They are really up to part, I think, as far as technology is concerned. I mean, the classes have smart boards, and I think the children really relate to the hands-on.
What are the weaknesses, if any, of the Starkville School District?
Weaknesses. Like say, I guess maybe not seeing more parent involvement, I would say.
And what are your suggestions how to improve on the weaknesses?
By advocating, going out, recommending that they come, because you have to come out to find out what's going on and what you need to do to uplift your child in their grade and their performance.
What are your thoughts, if any, as to how transparency and accountability should factor into matters and things that involve and relate to the Starkville School Board and the Starkville School District?
I guess parents, teachers, board members, aldermen as yourself will be accountable. I think we need to maybe pull in together, work together, question on what we can do more so on the accountability.
What policy, if any, do you think that the school board should have with regard to receiving and hearing comments and suggestions from the public, citizens, and taxpayers at its board meetings?
I'm sorry, repeat that question.
Okay. Oh, yes, ma'am. What policy, if any, do you think that the school board should have with regard to receiving and hearing comments and suggestions from the public, citizens, and taxpayers at its board meetings?
I think they should do somewhat like you all do, where you give the citizens to let them speak for 3 minutes on any concerns or voice they want to be heard upon.
What qualification and experience do you think that a person should possess to be hired as superintendent of the Starkville School District?
You need someone that's, I guess, be open or very much so approachable to them. We need a dictator, let me change that. Not necessarily dictate, but a strong-willed person to kind of, I guess, this is what we need to do in this situation, and this is why. I think the biggest thing on parents, we want to know why, and I think they need to be honest and just kind of let us know why you want to see something done.
What matter or matters, if any, is of ultimate concern to you at this time regarding the Starkville School District?
Find a good superintendent to bring our school up to par.
Should a member of the school board be involved in the day-to-day operation of the Starkville School District?
No.
Should a member of the school board be involved in any manner in the micromanagement of the Starkville School District?
In the manner?
In the micromanagement?
No.
If you are appointed to serve on the Starkville School Board, exactly what act or action, if any, do you intend to take to promote the overall best interest and welfare of the Starkville School District?
I think, as I said earlier to Ms. Trump, I would like to see a principal come in and just speak on what we should expect, and then opening the floor up and let parents speak on behalf of their thoughts of what's going on.
What is the role and duties of the member of the Starkville School Board?
To follow policy and procedure.
What is the role and duties of the superintendent?
Follow policy and procedures.
What is the role and duties of the principal?
And follow policy and procedures.
And how do these roles interrelate?
I think by following policy and procedure, you have a chain of command that you need to approach by.
Ms. Thompson, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you short. Go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you short. Go ahead.
I was just saying, by the principal, of course, following policy and procedure, I guess you would start with parents. We need to follow the chain of command before we don't want to go jump up to the superintendent first. We want to start with the teacher, the principal, and just follow our chain of command. And find out first, let's get some facts first before we just start going in.
Ms. Thompson, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, you yield the floor.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Won't be long, I don't think. All right, seeing none, the city attorney has a few procedural questions he needs to ask you.
And Mrs. Thompson, these are just to ensure that you would be statutorily eligible to serve should this board select you. Do you live within the city limits?
I stay in the district outside the city.
You're in the district but outside the city limits. Okay. Are you employed in any manner by the city?
No.
And are you a member of the County Board of Education?
No.
And are you a board member or trustee of any public, private, or religious school or college in Starkville or Oktibbeha County?
No.
And do you teach in any manner in the Starkville public school system?
No.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
may I direct a question to the city attorney?
Yes.
Mr. Attorney, and of course, we're still considering, and I just want to follow up on one of your questions, a friendly question. I noticed on one of the questions you asked, do you live within the city limits? Does this applicant have to live within the city limits, or it doesn't matter? I'm only asking, it doesn't matter with me, I'm just only asking for informational purposes.
Yeah, and it's my reading of the law that we already have our added territory representative on the board, because right now, approximately 18% of the Starkville students come from the added territory, and it would be more than 30 to be able to put 2 members. So she, I don't think, is statutorily eligible to serve.
Okay, would you step out for just a moment here?
Sorry.
Remember, 2 years ago, that was the issue, but Bill Weeks was on the board.
Mr. Mayor, I had another question, but let me visit with him instead of asking that question now. So,
We'll finish the interviews and we'll confer
talk.
on the
Okay,
statute.
we'll talk to the mayor's office.
Okay.
Stantec, and you? Thank you for your patience, Mr. Chairman. Do you have any introductory comments you'd like to make?
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Mr. Mayor and Alderman, this is an exciting time with the Starkville School District. A new superintendent is being named. Due to the bond issue, our facilities have been upgraded, and our test scores are up. We have a lot to be proud of. But as in every organization, there's more work to be done. Switching over to the Common Core standards, stretching our funds, and continuing to improve our test scores, and trying to keep up with technology are a few of the things that we need to address every day. I have 2 children in the Starkville School District, one in the middle school and one in the high school. Due to my educational experiences with them, my involvement with PTA, the Shared Decision-Making Committee, the Education Foundations, Parents for Public Schools, and other groups, I believe I can provide a unique perspective to address these goals and challenges. I also believe my legal education and experience will be helpful as the board faces legal issues every day. A thorough and methodical approach to all these issues is needed, and I hope to bring that to the school board. While we all need good schools for our children, we also want good schools for our community. Our school district directly impacts economic development and recruitment at Mississippi State. Therefore, we have to be particularly mindful of the impression our school district gives to outsiders. We need to be a place that is seen as diverse, of high academic standards, safe, and where there is communication with all stakeholders. I would work hard to meet all of these standards. I enjoy serving as your part-time administrative hearing officer for the city of Starkville, but under state law, I would not be eligible to serve as a municipal employee and be appointed to the school board. Therefore, if I am your appointee to the school board, I will resign my part-time position as the administrative hearing officer. Thank you for your consideration. I'll be glad to answer any questions you have.
Do we have any questions from the members of the board? Alderman Sistrum.
We have a series of questions that we've asked each of the applicants. All of the applicants are active, involved parents, and I'm sure all of them, including you, have formed an opinion about what you think makes an effective and successful school board member. Could you identify 2 or 3 characteristics that you would like to see us consider as we make an appointment to the school board, and comment on your qualifications to those characteristics?
I think, for one thing, I think it's a benefit to have children in the system, because I think parents or any stakeholder who's in and out of the schools, you know a lot more about the schools when you're going in them and out of them, because you know more about what's going on, you know who the teachers are, you know who the administrators are. I think that's one qualification, and I think all the people here tonight have that as that. I think also being involved in the local groups, in the PTAs, Education Foundation, the Parents for Public School, I think that is important too, because I think you have to have a passion for public schools, not just for your children, but for the whole community. And because it is it's important not just for each family, but for the whole community. And I think you need to see that passion in each person who's going on the school board. I think we also need to look for people who are willing to communicate with people and to listen to different ideas, but also then come back and have a thorough examination of issues and take lots of different things into consideration.
Alderman Perkins.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Ms. Turner, good evening.
Good evening.
And don't take that personal, it's just a housekeeping matter. Thank you when you step out. Thank you. Thank you. I think you've answered the first question, why you desire to be a member of the Starkville School Board. And let me move on to the next question. We have 4 applicants. Why should the board appoint you to serve on the school board, and what distinguishes you from the other, from the others, you would think?
I have been, and I think also Ms. Bird has had children in all 4 of our schools, and I think that's a plus. I've had, Emily, when we moved here in 2003, started as a 2nd grader, so she's now at the high school. Clay, my 7th grader, has gone through the entire system. He's at the middle school right now. So I think, I've been in all four schools. I've gotten to the administrators, how things run. I've known the teachers. I think that brings a unique, you know what the system is like. But also think it's something I think I can add, hopefully, a common sense approach to the school board. I can communicate with stakeholders, try to understand what their concerns are, and then come back and apply that to the school board decisions.
What are the strengths, if any, of the Starkville School District based on your knowledge?
What are the strengths of Starkville? Oh, I think there's many.
Okay.
I think right now, and I think I listed some of those, I think one thing that's to be excited about, we're getting a new superintendent, and I think that's going to have a wonderful, it's just like anything else, when something new happens, there's going to be a lot of enthusiasm, and hopefully we're getting a lot more parent involvement. I think it brings a certain excitement to the school district, and maybe we'll have more people coming in to help. I think our new facilities, the bond issue, it's so nice. The high school, the middle school, all of those things, the new gym at Sudeth, our facilities have looked the best I think they've looked in a long, long time. So I think our faculty is a strength, I think our administrators are a strength. We have all kinds of extracurricular activities, so I think we have a lot of strengths in the Starkville School District.
Okay, what are the weaknesses, if any, of the Starkville School District? The weaknesses?
The weaknesses. Well, I think the weaknesses is like everybody, we don't have enough money to do everything we want to do. And I think that's pretty common. We just like every other school district, we'd like to have offer a lot of services we don't have. And I think having a new superintendent is going to help bring in a lot of new enthusiasm. And, I guess that's the only weakness I can think of right now is, not having enough money. I think we have dedicated faculty. I think none of that is a weakness.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts, if any, as to how transparency and accountability should factor into matters and things that involve and relate to the Starkville School Board and the Starkville School District?
I'm sorry, could you
I'm sorry.
repeat that,
Yes,
please,
yes, ma'am.
Mr. Perkins?
What are your thoughts, if any, as to how transparency and accountability should factor into matters and things that involve and relate to the Starkville School Board and the Starkville School District?
Well, I think you should be as transparent as legally possible. And I think communication, I think parents, you're dealing with a child, and that's probably the most important thing to that parent in the world. And the more they know about their education, the better. And I think we should be as transparent as we legally can.
Okay. And what policy, if any, do you think that the school board should have with regard to receiving and hearing comments and suggestions from the public, citizens, and taxpayers at its board meetings? What policy as to receiving and hearing comments?
Do you mean like the public comment?
In other words,
I'm sorry.
in response to your inquiry, if you have a citizen who wants to address the school board, who wants, just like you have citizens come to this meeting, what policy, if any, do you think that the board should have to accommodate that?
Okay. If I'm not mistaken, now they have to register they have to get on the agenda. I don't know if that should be changed. I don't know if that's inflexible. I don't know if, I don't know if there's a need for that to be changed. My understanding is, I could be wrong, but when I've been there, they do have a time where there is parental comment, or there can be public comment, but I do not know if you have to register for that, and I don't know if there's a need for that to be changed or not. So I guess I don't know about that yet.
Okay, what qualification experience do you think a person should possess to be hired as superintendent of the Starkville School District? What qualification experience?
Well, as I think almost all the candidates were there last night, there was a community stakeholders meetings, and the community, I think, outlined very good qualifications. They have a PhD, they have, I think, at least 6 years experience as administrator. I think what the community outlined and what they fought, what we saw, them bring in, I think that's who we need, that's the kind of people we need.
Okay. What matters, if any, is of ultimate concern to you at this time regarding the Starkville School District?
I think I've addressed everything.
Okay. And what about the role of the school board member? You think that member should be involved in day-to-day operation of the school district?
No, sir.
Okay. And what, if you're appointed to serve on the Starkville School Board, exactly what acts or actions, if any, do you intend to take to promote the overall best interest and welfare of the Starkville School District?
I'm sorry, did you say what specific actions?
Yes, what actions do you intend to take to promote?
Well, I don't think I'm going into that. I would be going into any specific agenda, Mr. Perkins. I think what I would be looking is the overall welfare of the school district. So I don't have a particular issue that I think just all the things that we've talked about would be what I would be interested in.
Right. Let me get my final set of questions. I just got one observation. So and I see you got your Juris Doctorate degree in 1988.
Yes, sir.
So you've been practicing law for 24 years.
Well,
I mean, you've been an attorney, licensed attorney for 24.
Yes, sir. Part of that I was raising children.
And
I
I say,
wasn't practicing the whole time. I was raising children part of that time.
And I just say that that's a very high commendation there. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
Okay. What is the role and duties of the member of the Starkville School Board?
Well, I think you have several duties, and you're acting on approving, just like you all do, approving the budget, you're approving all of their personnel, you're hiring people, you're setting the general policies. I believe you set the policies and then ask your administrators, you set your budgets, and then you ask your administrators to activate all those.
And then in the final course, I'll lump these together. Just tell me what the role and duties of the superintendent and the principal, and how do they interrelate?
Okay, my understanding is the superintendent is kind of like our chief operating officer. Then the principals carry out his policies and his different things, and it's kind of a trickle down. But the superintendent would be acting as the chief operating officer for the school district.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Mayor, I yield the floor. Thank you.
Do we have any further questions from the members of the board?
Are you sure you want to give up the city job?
Well, I've really enjoyed working with Mr. Green and Mr. Griffith and those, but I think this is something that's really important, and
Yes, ma'am.
I would be willing to do that if you wanted to appoint me.
Any further questions from the members of the board? Seeing none, the city attorney has a few procedural questions to
Okay.
ask.
And Ms. Turner, if you were selected for the school board, what would be the timeline for your resignation for the administrative hearing position?
Well, I would work with Mr. Griffith and Mr. Green, and however, I only hear cases twice a month. So, as a matter of fact, I heard we had a docket today, which is the first. We pretty much follow your calendar. We're the first and the third. So we could do it however, we needed to do that. I don't want to leave them in the lurch, but I also know that, I would need to do something if I needed to.
And statutorily, I think that would need to happen by the first Saturday in March.
Oh, okay.
Just an FYI.
Okay.
Are you a member of the County Board of Education? Oktibbeha County?
Oh, no.
Okay. Do you teach in any manner in the Starkville Public School System?
No.
Are you employed in any other way by the city?
Just as part-time as administrative hearing officer.
Do you live within the city limits?
Yes.
And are you a trustee or board member of any public, private, or religious school or college in Starkville or Oktibbeha County?
No.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Turner.
Do you want me to go back out, or do you want us to come back in, or?
Without objection, I'm going to move us into a brief recess, but at this point, y'all can all be in the room.
So tell the other candidates they can come back in.
Yeah, I tell you what, the city attorney has something he wants to brief them on, so go ahead and invite everybody back in. They need to all be in the room.
Okay, okay. Yeah, I got to do an AGP. I got to mix that.
I was just working from memory.
No, you're right. You tripped me up then, you tripped me up now. Mental block.
Well, if I remember that line,
Mayor.
opinions are very tricky.
Keep your seat.
There's an AG opinion. I got to mix it up.
Are they coming back in?
No.
I just want you to know that you should think this person can bring in or outside. Right. I appreciate you. I don't appreciate it. Okay, sure. Sure. We just gonna announce it real quick.
There was some discussion for those of you that were all in the room as to whether this was a city limits only appointment or whether this was city limits and added territory. The city attorney's done some research at the table, and he's going to brief everybody on what the rule is.
I misspoke originally, and I apologize for that. There's an AG opinion on point under the name McBeath from February 3rd of 1981 that says that there can be up to 2 members on the school board from the added territory, regardless of the percentage of students in the school system from the added territory. So this appointment can be made from somebody who lives within the city limits or outside the city limits, but within the separate school district. And I apologize for misspeaking earlier. I got that mixed up.
And at this time, without objection, I'm going to move us into a brief recess. Any objection? Any objection? Seeing none, we'll stand in recess. And the next matter on the agenda is this, our second public hearing on the proposed condominium ordinance. This is a matter that I have brought to the attention of the board. As it stands currently, we have no type of development regulation that speaks directly to condominium development, and that may not have been as much of an issue in the past because I don't think we were seeing the volume and the demand for condominium development that we're seeing now. And the issue that we have right now is, since there is nothing that speaks directly to condominium development, our planning and building staff has been forced to kind of shoehorn the condominium development process into the subdivision of land process, and it doesn't fit neatly into the subdivision of land process because with condominium development, you are typically subdividing building space, so it's much more akin to traditional building processes. And going through the subdivision of land process calls for a great amount of added processes. It has to go through full-blown Planning and Zoning Commission meetings and Board of Alderman meetings, and that is a process that can unwind over several months. I believe, and have spent quite a bit of time working with our staff, that since condominium development is much more akin to traditional building development than it is the subdivision of land parcels, that it more neatly fits into a process that doesn't require it to be vetted through two public processes before it starts. And there are potential consequences to it being hung up in the red tape of public processes for several months. As all of us are well aware, these are still trying economic times, and financing for development projects is as difficult as it's been for quite some time all across the country right now. The longer a potential condominium development is subjected to processes here, the more uncertain financing can become, and the more uncertain the project itself can become. So we've worked for quite a bit of time trying to develop a framework that will make sure condominium development happens in an orderly manner that promotes the highest and best use of land here in the city of Starkville, and also will allow condominium development to happen in a manner less subject to the red tape of city processes. Questions or comments from the members of the board?
I had a couple of
Alderman
questions. On page 8, where it talks about parking, I just assume that this parking would be subject to the subdivision regs as they currently stand?
Right.
Is that right?
Right.
All right. And then on street cross sections, or we talk about streets in here a couple of times, and was this part of the process where you developed, Edward, some of those cross sections that had for the private street sections and more narrow cross sections and right-of-way? Right. So does that not need to be a part of this amendment, or does that intentional? Okay. Because in here it references streets and alleys shall conform to the private street roadway cross sections as reflected in the City of Starkville Code of Ordinance, Chapter 98, Streets, Sidewalks, and Other Public Places. And I think those things are worthy of being included. I just want to be sure that those are.
What we tried to do, instead of having all those things included in that ordinance, is to reference to the section of the code that takes care of streets and its entirety, as we do with public utilities as well, referencing back to utilities. So we're trying to do it so that people can go to the proper section that's in the code.
So those cross sections that were revised for this specifically are in that code? Okay, good. That's all I have.
Further questions or comments from the members of the board? Any further questions or comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, we'll move to the public comment portion of the public hearing. In keeping with standard practice, we will hear in alternating fashion from those wishing to speak for and against this ordinance, beginning with someone wishing to speak for, and each person will be given a maximum of 3 minutes to make their comments. Each side will be given a total maximum of 15 minutes. At this time, is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Is there anyone wishing to speak against the proposed ordinance?
Good evening to the mayor and board. My name is Alvin Tumbleward. It's a lot of things that we need done. the citizens get frustrated when we want to do opposite of what we need done. A lot of people, they do not understand what a condominium is, townhouse, duplex. They don't understand that because they don't know what it is. But then there's a lot of more things that we need to get done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Turner. Is there anyone now wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Anyone now wishing to speak in favor of the proposed ordinance? Seeing no one, is there anyone now wishing to speak against the proposed ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak against the proposed ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak for, against, or indifferent to the proposed ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak on the topic of the proposed ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak? Seeing no one, that will conclude the public comment portion of the public hearing, and we will now hear final comments from the members of the board. Are there any concluding comments from the members of the board? Seeing none, that carries us directly into the consideration of the approval of the proposed condo ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to approve the adoption of a condominium ordinance and amending the City of Starkville Code of Ordinances to include the process and handling of condominium projects as presented. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Parker. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the appointment of a steering committee to work with a consultant to develop redevelopment districts at a corresponding redevelopment authority. We have hired Arnett Moultro to consult for the city in establishing a redevelopment authority, which is a process that also requires establishing redevelopment districts that redevelopment authority will work for. In my initial meeting with Trip Muldrow of Arnett Moultro, he asked that I put together a steering committee prior to his next visit to town. We talked through several different interests that would need to be represented on the steering committee, and the list you have is my slate of nominees. It includes Jennifer Gregory, who is the coordinator of the Main Street program and employed by the Greater Starkville Development Partnership, Pamela Daniel, who would be staff support, the assistant city planner, George Chastain, who is a property owner on Highway 182, and I anticipate that will be an area of emphasis for the redevelopment authority. And Mike Jones, who is an associate pastor at Peters Rock Temple, also situated on Highway 182. Jeremy Tabor, member of the local development community. Jeremy Murdoch, a representative from the Planning and Zoning Commission. Hal Parker, who is a property owner on Highway 12, adjacent to the university campus, which is another area that I anticipate will be an area of interest for the redevelopment authority. Jeremiah Dumas from the board, and me from the mayor's office. Discussion.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Refresh my memory. What exactly is redevelopment authority? What's the goals and the missions of this authority?
The state statute provides cities the opportunities to designate areas for targeted redevelopment and allow cities to appoint redevelopment authorities to do things that will foster redevelopment in those districts. And the first step of the process is you have to establish the districts, and then you have to seat a governing body that will act as the redevelopment authority.
But I guess to be clear, this is not the authority.
No, this is not the
committee.
This is the steering committee that will work with the consultant to bring back to you the groundwork for establishing the districts and the authority. No authority can be established, no districts can be established without this board approving of it. Redevelopment authority is a creature of the city. The purpose and intent of the statutory framework for redevelopment authorities is for cities to be able to provide comprehensive analysis and frameworks that will hopefully foster development in an area that's not seeing a lot of new development right now, but has potential for new development.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of nominating the committee with the names that you have reduced to writing.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to approve of the appointment of a steering committee for the purpose of exploring the establishment of a redevelopment authority and making recommendations to the Board of Alderman consisting of the following people. Jennifer Gregory, Pamela Daniel, George Chastain, Mike Jones, Jeremy Tabor, Jeremy Murdoch, Hal Parker, Jeremiah Dumas, and Parker Wiseman. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merits?
I do not.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is discussion and consideration of making an appointment to the Starkville School Board beginning with a term beginning on March 6, 2012. We'll give Alderman Vaughn and Alderman Dumas a moment to exit the room. Alderman Sistrunk.
We're fortunate to have a really good slate of candidates tonight, and I know how very difficult it is to go through this very public process. Thank you, and we appreciate your interest in our schools, and we hope that you'll have continued involvement. I move approval of the appointment of Jenny Turner to the position of school board member for the term commencing on March 6, 2012.
Alderman Sistrunk has made a motion to appoint Jenny Turner to the Starkville School Board for the term beginning on March 6, 2012. Alderman Sistrunk, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Carver. Alderman Sistrunk, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion? Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, let me just take a very brief moment. I want to say to all 4 of the applicants, again, personally, to Mr. Doug Bessall, to Ms. Sylvia Bird, to Ms. Jonita Thompson, and to Ms. Turner, that I was very pleased with your responses to my questions and also to the questions of the other members of the board. And I, quite frankly, you know, all of you really did a very fine job, and I really would not have any objection voting for either one of you to the board. And I mentioned to you, I came here with an open mind to have a conversation with each of you this evening. And it's just very unfortunate that we only can make one appointment tonight. And we do have a motion on the floor, and I'm going to go ahead and concur with the motion. But please, those whose name is not included here, who's not being nominated for this vacancy, please leave here tonight knowing that you did a good job. Your heart is in the school district, and I am very convinced of that. And so I want you to continue to stay involved in the district. We have a very important district, we have a lot of things going on, and the more input and feedback that we can put into the district, the better the district will be. So Ms. Thompson, Ms. Turner, I'm about to support this motion, and it appears that this motion is fixing to have some movement. And I want to say before I cast this vote here that I want you to, if the motion passes, I want you to go over and do a very good job in the district and just make sure we have the best school district that we possibly can. We need all the transparency, accountability, and the public deserves the right to know within the legal means of things. So I'm going to support the motion that's on the floor, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Sistrunk's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 0 against, this measure passes. Could somebody invite Alderman Dumas and Alderman Vaughn back in the room? And congratulations, Ms. Turner, and thank you all so very much. You all did an excellent, excellent job. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the approval of a resolution authorizing the city to charge a record management fee in accordance with the applicable Mississippi Code, Section 2560-5. Ms. Outlaw, would you like to introduce this matter?
Mr. Mayor, move approval.
Motion has been made by Alderman Perkins to approve of a resolution authorizing the city of Starkville to charge a records management fee in accordance with the applicable Mississippi Code annotated Section 25-60-5 as presented. Alderman Perkins, is that your motion?
Yes, sir.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Dumas. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the matter?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Alderman Sistrunk.
I had asked this question earlier today, but would either Ms. Sproul or Ms. Outlaw, just for the sake of those that are here tonight, kind of run through the types of things that are subject to this fee?
Hey, Ms. Outlaw, if you don't mind, I'll do it because I have that handout that was provided to me. One of the handouts that I got when I was in ML was to provide this information and make me aware of that this is a possibility for us. It would go to things such as building permits, COs, certificate of occupancies, conditional user permits, contractor applications for building permits, electric, gas, plumbing permits, electrical gas inspections, power application, fence permits, garage yard sales, mechanics lane, parade permits, planning and zoning applications, event applications, tree and landscape permits, that sort of thing.
And the $1 fee is statutorily mandated, and it's split between the city and the state?
Yes, if the resolution is passed, it's 50%, 50 cents, 50% of it will go to the state and 50 cents to the city.
But it is limited to $1?
Yes.
Okay.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Alderman Carter.
I guess I just want to know what drove this. Who drove this and who recommended this?
It was me. I went to MML the midwinter, and this was one of the things that was highlighted as something the city could do to then be able to have some funding to manage the records. As you know, we have a lot of records that need to be updated, and while it will take a while to gather at 50 cents, hopefully we'll be able to manage some records that we have currently involved. Long-term plan.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
By a vote of 6 in favor with 1 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the results of the selection committee for the RFPP for public-private partnership for municipal complex development and authorization of the mayor or his designee to negotiate with the submitter of the proposal. The review team met 2 weeks ago to review applications that had been submitted or proposals that had been submitted pursuant to the RFPP that this board issued back in December and that was due in January. The proposals were scored with the West construction team receiving the highest score and the Weathers construction team receiving the second highest score. Those were the 2 proposals that were submitted. There is much work to be done with even the proposal with the highest score to determine whether we've got a viable proposal. But in that case, I think it's quite possible there could be a viable proposal there. And that's why I would like the opportunity to be able to negotiate with the West team and get to the bottom of the proposal and determine exactly what it would take to accomplish. In the best case scenario, though, that proposal includes providing only for the City Hall and courts function. Their proposal is to provide for City Hall and courts at the old electric department site. So that gives rise to the need for the next RFPP, which is on the agenda. That would be issue another request for partnership proposals for someone who might then in turn, if that proposal was to be successful, be interested in renovating this facility for police services. Because an advantage you would have from that proposal is if you get everything but police out of this building, then all of a sudden you've got a fairly close amount of space to what the police department needs. Discussion. Alderman Sistrunk.
As you noted, there were 2 proposals submitted, and the committee did indeed score both, but only one of the proposals would be considered a complete proposal and was therefore the lowest and best proposal that we received. I move approval of the selection committee's recommendation and authorization for the mayor or his designee to negotiate with West Brothers Construction, the submitter of the lowest and best proposal.
Alderman Sistrunk has made a motion I should have been writing that down. Has made a motion to accept the results of the selection committee for the RFPP of the public-private partnership for the municipal complex development, being the lowest and best bid submitted, being the lowest and best proposal submitted by West Brothers Construction, and to authorize the mayor or his designee to negotiate with this submitter of the proposal. Alderman Sistrunk, is that your motion?
If it works with the city attorney and the city clerk, it's fine with me.
Does that cause you any heartburn?
No, that works.
All right. Any discussion, or excuse me, do I hear a second?
I've got a second and a discussion.
Alderman Dumas has seconded Alderman Sistrunk's motion. Alderman Sistrunk, do you wish to speak on the merit?
No.
Alderman Dumas?
I do. And just to be clear, this authority only gives you the ability to negotiate any potential fees and cost associated with the project, not the authority to okay or initiate the project in any form.
That's
That would have to come back to the board for our approval at a later date.
It would give me the authority to find out what it would take to make this a firm proposal and bring that back to the board and see what you thought.
Okay.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of Alderman Sistrunk's motion, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. Next matter on the agenda is the consideration of an RFPP for the development of a partnership proposal for a police facility and property management company. And that is the RFPP that you had sitting at your table today.
So this would be the same process we just went through for this facility, or I'm sorry, for additional lands, but it will be focused primarily on this facility.
Correct.
So we don't know what it will entail. It's just looking at potential programs or ideas associated with this facility.
Something that you didn't have before receiving this proposal is knowledge that it might be possible to move City Hall and courts out of this building. So while we're negotiating that proposal and finding out what we have there, it gives us the opportunity to ask for proposals as to what somebody could do in providing for police services by renovating this facility.
Are we binding the project, are we forcing police back into this facility, or are we open enough on the RFP to allow for the sale of this facility to a private individual?
It is not technically tailored that way. However, it does offer a little bit of latitude in the language where it doesn't restrict renovation or management of city facilities to just this facility.
Okay. So it's open-ended enough to where the market can bear.
Well, it really depends on how those proposals come in. It would be a question of what you get in terms of those proposals and the city attorney reviewing it and seeing whether it fits within the confines of that RFPP and also within the confines of state statute. Further discussion. Alderman Carter.
How much does this need to not or have a not to exceed amount? How much does this cost the city right here?
What, the RFPP?
Yeah. Well, anything
the cost
so far?
to advertise it.
That's it.
Maybe a couple of $100.
And before we go any further in knowing the history of this, what would be your funding mechanism for the public-private partnership? Would this be a tax increase, or would it be?
My intent all along, because I think it's the only way this project is viable, is to find a way to fund whatever project the city would go forward with on existing revenues. having been where we've just been with a bond issue that involved potential tax increases, and having gotten the feedback that we got, quite frankly, I don't think it's viable to head out there with another proposed tax increase. So I've always viewed that as something that's something being tax neutral. That's an essential component of this. However, others on the board may disagree with me.
So with this, in theory, is this public-private partnership for a municipal complex going to come from our general budget, general fund?
That's the only place it could come from.
Okay. How much would you think that proposed cost the city each year?
I have no idea.
No idea. Okay.
Further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor of Alderman Sistrunk's motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
Nay.
Nay. By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. That carries us to a report from the city attorney on the creation of a storm sewer enterprise fund. Mr. Ladler.
Yes, sir. The board and mayor asked me to look into the legality of creating a storm sewer system management fee. And I think that fee is controlled by a statute, and the particular statute at issue is 212723. So when I say the statute, I'm talking about code section 212723. Subsection E of that statute says that any municipality may establish, maintain, and collect rates for a sewerage system. The word sewerage, S-E-W-E-R-A-G-E. So my first research trail that I did was whether a storm water management system would fall under that sewerage system language in the statute. 2 AG opinions speak to it. One is called Cogman from 1984. The other is Oswalt from 1985. These opinions deal with municipalities using municipal funds for drainage ditches, for their maintenance or for their extension. And they say that these types of activities fall under the meaning of the statute, which I think gives a strong indication that drainage work and storm sewer maintenance falls under sewerage system in the statute. The next question was whether Starkville can impose a flat rate for this storm water management fee. 2 AG opinions speak to that. One is called Hollingsworth from 2009, and the other is Dye, D-Y-E, from 2007. And they both state that a flat rate for sewage usage is permissible so long as there's no profit from the rate, and that the rate is reasonably calculated to cover only the cost of the operation and not to produce any surplus. The statutes go on to talk about how to construe 212723. One code section, which is 212767, says that because the statute is necessary for the public health, safety, and convenience, it should be liberally construed. In other words, if there's some ambiguity or play in whether something falls under it or falls outside it, the tie goes to the runner, so to speak. It falls under the statute. Code section 212767 says that the statute in question provides full authority for the city to collect rates for such a system. And then the statute in subsection H says that the city can adopt an ordinance or resolution to effectuate that purpose. If there's a blind spot in the research, the blind spot exists because there's not a case from the Mississippi Supreme Court or the Mississippi Court of Appeals that shows that another city tried this and the court said this either works or it doesn't work. So we don't have that strong precedent to say here's a case and this case controls the issue. There are just no cases out there that speak to it. There are cases out there that speak to impact fees, and I want to address that issue because that word was used in the last board meeting when talking about this subject. An impact fee, the courts say, is a fee imposed that's really a tax. It's a tax in disguise that's done with no constitutional or statutory authority. I think this case could arguably be different in that we do have statutory authority, I think, under the best reading of the law based on that statute 212723 to do this. So I don't think we would be in that impact fee territory. Plus, impact fees are not per se illegal if there's authority to do it. You just can't tax with no authority whatsoever. So again, I can't say that this is a legal lock, that it will stand up if challenged, because there's not that case that is defining precedent, but it appears that all the law in this area is cutting in favor of Starkville being able to do this fee.
Questions or comments? Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, thanks for the floor. I don't have any questions to the city attorney, but let me make these comments. Let me publicly thank our counsel for giving me a copy of the materials that he cited in his memorandum here. Just as an initial comment, I was reading the city attorney's memorandum where on the general governing law, where he cites section 213723E, and I see that he did make an error with that. That 213723 talks about establishing, creating parking facilities. So that's not even a situation here. So that's the wrong code site there on that 213723. It has no applicability to this. Now, the city attorney cites two attorney general's opinion that he would like for the board to consider regarding this. I did not see any law in those opinions that would give legal authority, in my opinion, for the board to create and establish an impact fee through an enterprise fund for storm water diversion. Now, if you take the first opinion that I have here, that he cites three opinions. There's one opinion, the 2009 opinion, where it says a municipality is authorized pursuant to Code 2127.3 to set its utility rates a flat rate for sewer usage, provided that the amount of domestic sewage costs that the industry pays for the entire fiscal year is the same that we paid if it were billed for the exact amount incurred each month. Now, that is not relevant here to this issue here, because we're not talking about setting a flat rate for sewage usage. Our sewer rate is already established. We already have a rate for sewer. Our sewer is a rate that is where you factor in water consumption. So basically, that's what this opinion, it goes on to say in this opinion, a municipality may charge its customers for utilities a flat rate each month, provided that the amount the customer pays for the entire fiscal year is the same that the customer would pay if he or she were billed for exact amount of the utility used each month. It is the responsibility of the municipality to reevaluate the amount charged to the customer at least once a year to ensure the amount paid over the course of the year reflects the amount of the utility used for. So what the board, with this opinion, what the board is trying to do, the board wants to, they're trying to be creative here. They want to create an enterprise fund. Enterprise fund is a fund that is used to pay for goods or services whereby the public pays a fee for that goods or services. Example, sanitation is an enterprise. With regard to sanitation, you have something to measure that with, where in the city of Starkville, each household is billed for sanitation. You can measure it to goods and services. As to electricity, enterprise fund, you base the usage as to kilowatts hours. As to water, you have a rate. Now, this is what this opinion talks about, a flat rate. And then we charge so much beyond the flat rate. And then the sewer is based upon the water consumption. Now, as I get into what the attorney say, and good, he did acknowledge that, that we don't have any court case, and, and just his opinion. We don't have no attorney general's opinion on this thing. But what the city of Starkville, to the public and to the reporters out there, get this right now, what they're trying to do, they're trying to create an enterprise fund. Now remember, with this enterprise fund that is being proposed tonight, what would happen is that would be a line item on the utility bill for storm water diversion. So, with the stormwater diversion, this does not come within that definition because, there is no value to that. You can't pay for that out of no enterprise fund. Just like with streets, there's no value. You pay for that out of the general fund. See, once you create an enterprise fund, that enterprise fund is to be used for the enterprise purpose. You cannot use an enterprise fund to cover and pay for things that should be paid for out of the general fund. Now, as we explore what the city attorney gave us, and he said that a sewer system is not improper. That is not even the issue here tonight. And I agree with the city attorney that you can use municipal funds, but the point is you cannot commingle. It's just like with sanitation. You keep the sanitation fund. That's why it's an enterprise fund. Electric department, enterprise fund. But see, to do this would be a discriminate, basically a tax, because you cannot put a value to it. There's no value put to this. Now, if you look at the next opinion that the attorney cites, a 1985 opinion, where it say that this office, the attorney general, expressed the opinion that municipal funds may be expended for the maintenance of drainage ditches. They didn't say anything about enterprise funds. It says municipal funds, and municipal funds are your tax revenue, provided the governing authority determine, consistent with the fact that such action is necessary for the proper maintenance of the municipal water and or sewer system. This proposed tax or fee is a tax increase, so that's what's being proposed. This is not necessary for the maintenance of our sewer system. So you use municipal funds just like we have been using all the time, and this opinion say that you can use it for the maintenance of drainage ditches. And when you municipal fund, we're talking about the tax dollars. You can use that for that purpose. And see, but what the city is purporting to do is purporting to have a separate line item to generate revenue for municipal fund purposes. And am I missing somebody here? I'm getting some attention from Ms. Bull and Ms. Boyd. Okay, let me have your clear attention out here. So, but municipal funds are funds that are in the general fund. Those are funds that come from tax revenue. Now, if you look at the case that's cited by the attorney, he cites this case, and I did bring that case to his attention about this impact fee, and he had not looked at the case. And all due respect to counsel, the case of the mayor and board of aldermen of Ocean Springs, in that case, it talks about, it says that about impact fees, and it says earmarking impact, the revenue in a separate fund did not ensure that a specific benefit will be conferred on the payer of the fee. Fees were adopted for general purposes that were traditionally funded by tax revenue, and fees were simply a revenue-raising measure. In order for fees imposed by the city to be regulatory in nature, as would qualify them as authorized under the city's police power, there must be a specific benefit conferred on the payer of the fee. So what the Supreme Court says in that home builders case, based on my opinion as a licensed attorney here, that there has to be a specific benefit. So what benefit is that the payer of this fee going to get? And understand what I'm saying to the press here is that we'll see, well, with the sanitation you get a benefit. You pay for they pick your garbage up twice a week if you put it out. You get a benefit for your for the electric bill because it's based on kilowatt hours. You get a benefit for the water because you pay based upon rate and consumption. You get a benefit for the sewer because it's based upon usage. But you don't get no benefit here. You cannot commingle the funds. I mean, it's just like an attorney's office. You got a trust account. I mean, the trust account, you don't commingle that with the attorney funds. You keep that separate because if not, you're going to be in trouble with the bar. And then your regular account, you keep that separate. So this is not, there's no authority that I have seen. In that case, the Supreme Court say that there has to be legislative authority. Now, the attorney goes on to say, in his opinion, that municipal funds may be expended for the maintenance of drainage ditches, provided that the governing authority determine consistent with the fact that such action is necessary. There's no action that's. I mean, we don't need this fee to maintain a water system. I mean, what the board is going to try to do, if you just put the facts on the table, they're trying to generate revenue to pay for municipal fund matters. Now, the attorney has acknowledged to the mayor and the board that I mean, this is just his opinion. He's arguing. He's not found any law. Now, I even asked our chief administrative officer to research this question for me. And of course, this does not get to the legal issue here. Are there any towns, municipalities, villages in the state of Mississippi who have instituted a sewer management fee? This is what she has. I have contacted several of the most likely candidates, as well as the larger municipalities in the state, and have been unable to locate any fees that have been implemented. I have researched via their websites various cities and counties and have found none that have a stormwater management fee noted in their ordinances or information databases. There are numerous counties and cities that have a stormwater management district or department. I contacted Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality and was told that they did not have any cities, to their knowledge, that had a storm sewer management fee in place. Finally, I researched the AG opinion database and did not locate any municipality or county governmental unit that had a stormwater or storm sewer management fee in existence. You can rest assured that if there was some law for it, some municipality would have found would have gone ahead and promulgated this fee, and for the creation of it. Now, the attorney's memorandum goes on to say that that the Mississippi Department of Environmental Quality already promulgates permit forms that apply to small municipal separate storm sewer systems. This appears to be further evidence of legality of such a system, because if a storm system were improper, it is doubtful that the MDEQ would have a form that facilitates it. We're not saying that the storm system is improper, but what you cannot do is, in my opinion, it appears that it is improper to create and establish an enterprise fund for the purpose of collecting a fee to be deposited in an enterprise fund for storm water diversion. The court in the home builders case that is the impact case from Ocean Springs says there must be specific benefit conferred on the payer of the fee. So what specific benefit? There is none. And even if there was some authority for municipal funds, you got to you have to make sure that the money is going to cover the operation of the system. And I'll get into that a little bit later. And let me just add this in while we talk about the law of it. Now, personally at this point, I take respectful disagreement with the attorney on this issue. He says the next issue is whether Starkville may charge a flat rate to improve and or to expand the storm sewer system. We're not trying to expand a storm sewer system. If you really taxpayers get down to the straight and the narrow of this whole thing, the board, in my opinion and Alderman Perkins' opinion is looking for revenue to pay for capital improvement projects. That's the bottom line. And I know as the discussion going to get involved, maybe on down, well, Alderman Perkins, you have one of these in your district. But I'm not going to be selfish about this. I have been a proponent to pay as you go. And and when you talk about that, we have people in the city that can do this work. But that's away from the legal point of view. But the legal point is that that we know we can charge a flat rate. This opinion from the attorney tells me nothing. It does not tell me nothing. It offers me nothing. We already know we can charge a flat rate for utilities. We charge flat rate for enterprise. We charge flat rate for sanitation. We charge a certain rate for water. We charge a certain rate for sewer. And just a little history on that. During the last term, Ms. Spruill, we increased those water, or the board did rather, by majority vote, increased water and sewer, and that was also to help cover the upgrade with some of the water systems. Now, that's where these opinions come into applicability here. I mean, that's where that come in to be, just to upgrade. We're not trying to upgrade the system. Now, yes, the city of Starkville can legally improve its maintenance ditches, but you have to do it with general fund. If you want to do it and don't have the money, bring any member of this board or the mayor can bring a tax increase proposal and pay for it. That's what they want to do. But this is not the mechanism. Bring your tax increase proposal. I mean, don't try to go through the back door with this thing here. All this amounts to is a tax increase. The people are taxed enough, but I'll cover that later. But let me stay with the law. Let me look at this opinion a little bit more from this attorney. Let's see what it says. It says that as long as that rate is reasonably calculated to cover the cost of the operation of the system, but not to create a profit or a surplus revenue. We're not trying to get money to upgrade. I mean, our system is making it as it is. Last report I got from Mr. Doug Devlin, our system is fine. There's been no catastrophe on our system. Now, if we need to have some upgrade to it, then we can charge a fee as long as it does not create a profit or there's no surplus revenue. And you're speaking about trying to use the money, even on the other side of the argument here. If you're talking about using the money for this, I mean, if the board were to pass this, it would amount to a surplus. It would amount to excess revenue. It would amount to a profit. Let me tell you why it would do that to the public. The reason that you would have excess revenue is because, in all due respect, I want the Carver Drive Dish project done, but I tell you what, I'm not voting for this proposal because this is not the way to do it. But the reason that it would provide excess revenue, because the way the Carver Drive project has been presented to us, you got to have governmental approval. There has not been anything presented to us saying that they're going to approve the project. So yet here, we want to put the cart in front of the horse here. You don't even have federal approval and want to float a $2.50 tax increase on each household and $5 on each business. We've had one tax increase this year that was passed by a majority of this board. I mean, the people are struggling. The economy is tough. If it's not a whiskey bill, it's a tax bill out here. So a couple more legal points here. It says if the board intends to establish a flat rate for upgrading the storm sewer system, it will be up to the board to make a factual record as to why the flat rate is reasonably calculated for the operation of the system. This is the attorney's opinion. We're not trying to upgrade a storm sewer system. We're already charging a flat rate. Starkville may not discriminate in setting rates among similarly situated users for the same type of service. That's what you're going to be doing, because you're trying to create an enterprise fund where the people are not getting the benefit. There must be a specific benefit conferred upon the payer of the fee. And this is not my language. This is Supreme Court of Mississippi. The case is Mayor and Board of Alderman, City of Ocean Springs versus home built. This is the case that I mentioned to our city attorney, who had not even looked at this case. I told him about the impact case. I told him where the region was. That's not cited in his report. And even if you look in the city attorney's report, he mentions the case of the Sweet Home Water case. And that's a case that basically talks about impact fees, where you can charge a fee for certain services if the authority is there. Now, I mean, and great deference and respect to counsel, but the Attorney General's opinion in these cases do not give any authority, in my reading, in my opinion. Now, I'm not saying it's. I'm saying based on my reading, because don't get misunderstand what I'm saying. I do not read these opinions in cases to confer the authority, because one of the statutes that's cited in the attorney's memorandum talks about constructing parking facilities. That has nothing to do with it. Maybe it's a typographical error, I don't know, but it's the wrong code section. And how do I know? Because I don't research it already today. It's wrong. Be prepared when we come to the meetings. Now, so it's very obvious that this is a matter of first impression. I mean, some things we need to be first in, like we were, banning, smoking in public places. But we don't need to be the first in the state trying to go down these waters here, just trying to find creative means for revenue. A tax increase. I mean, let's be straightforward to the people. But I wanted to take this time here to talk at this point. I know it's board discussion, but I wanted to talk about the legal part. I want to talk about the legal part. And I do not think that it is proper to use enterprise fund for municipal purposes. You just cannot commingle that. And particularly, as I said earlier and in closing here, the new stormwater fund is certainly not necessary to maintain our water sewer system, and stormwater diversion cannot be measured and assessed per person or per household. So that's the technical difference. Now, when you read the attorney's opinion, he talks about municipal funds. Now, some may make the argument, well, if you have an enterprise fund, you can't put that into the general fund. Wrong. That has happened before with the city of Starkville. At least over $1 million was taken out of the electric department, out of the enterprise fund, and correct me if I'm wrong, Ms. Brule, that was used, and city clerk, correct me if I'm wrong, that was used for municipal purposes. And even if this thing is legal, I don't trust it. I've been there. I've seen it. I've seen monies earmarked. I've seen monies where it was earmarked for economic development, and then it found its way into the general fund. It's just like these legislators and these governmental bodies. When they need money, they're gonna find a way to make it go where they want it to go. And so, in another matter, we had back in the 1997 to 2001 term, where we had earmarked, or the board had earmarked $1 million for designation for use for roads in annexed territories. Is that $1 million still designated? Is that $1 million still designated for annexed road? No. Where is that $1 million at now? In the general fund. If this money, even apart from the legal argument here, if this money get inside this right here, they're not going to. It is my opinion they got to be Carver Drive. There's no interest in doing Carver Drive. We've been talking about Carver Drive since creation. Carver Drive not going to get done, and I'm not taking chances on Carver Drive and no other drive. We don't need this. We need to operate our city with prudent and conservative measures. Now, getting back to the law here, I just respectfully disagree, and our attorney said, and I'm sure he did his best, want to commend him for that. and he's a very respectful colleague. I mean, he's an upcoming lawyer and a very good colleague here. He said, in sum, Starkville has authority by state statute to own, operate, and maintain a sewage system. I think, we're stretching this right here there to make it fit what it appears the board wants to have fitted here. There is no question that we can maintain a sewage system. But what we're talking about just drainage ditches. If we don't do those drainage ditches right now on Carver Drive, Maple Drive, and some other designated places, the city's not going to shut down. The drainage is not going to cut down. So Alderman Perkins, well, what are you proposing? I'm proposing that we use our good laborers that we have in our department, just let them go out there, just like we did down there. I went by there and watched them do that almost every day. Back during my first term in this board up there, by maybe in the beginning of the second term, when they did work down there on that ditch down there on the J.L. King Park, now it used to be the West Side Drive Park, those guys, and I mentioned some, Mr. Kemp, you got some great people in your department. Mr. Stevenson, I need to mention their name because they did, I'm telling you, I'm not telling you what somebody told me. I saw Mr. Bill Stevens, that's when I learned about an excavator. He ran that excavator, he know what to do with it. Mr. Arthur Johnson, Mr. Jimmy Ellis, those guys know what to do. That's what we need to do because this thing right here is not proper. Now, I'm just telling you like it is. I don't see any authority. I have not seen any legal authority in this attorney's opinion. I have not heard him say that there's specific legal authority in the Attorney General opinion. And I read both of those Attorney General opinions. I didn't see anything to say that you can use municipal funds. We already know that. But they want to have an enterprise fund, and there's no way you can measure it. It's just like on streets. If that's the case, you might as well put a line item for streets with the utility bill. If you did the utility bill, so you can't measure a worth for streets. And then another legal problem you got with this, with this proposal here, if you're 20 days late, you got a $7 delinquent fee, and they want to cut your lights off, put you in the dark. So you don't pay your utility bill. The way I understand it, you don't pay your light bill. You don't pay your sewer bill. You just maybe a few dollars short. So is it legal to cut all your services off because you don't pay the $2.50? I mean, all these things need close scrutiny because the board, if this thing is passed, this is why I'm taking so much time. If this thing is passed, it's going to go into effect on the first day of March of 2012. And today is the 7th. In my calculation, that's only 23 days from now. So, we need to make sure this thing is legal. Even if it is legal, it's not good. So, but I see, I see the legal concerns that I have, and I just don't think that that it is that in other words, the storm water, there's no way of measuring the value that it brings to a person, to a household. And the Supreme Court has already spoken on this issue. And so legally, and I just wanted, Mr. Attorney, I was going to get back with you on this earlier today, but I just got tied up, and it had the school board matters. That took up a lot of my time trying to get those questions and things together. But I want to take this time for the board just to see this. Now, this is just the legal end. Now, if the board, now if a motion hits the floor, I'm going to cover the other end of this, about this. But legally, these two opinions, there's nothing in either one of those opinions that talks about an enterprise fund. Or, they don't talk about municipal funds. We already know you can use municipal funds, but we're talking about having enterprise funds. I have not seen anything in any legal authority other than saying that we can charge a flat rate. We're already charging a flat rate now for our utility systems. But this is all about drainage ditch. And you cannot use this to pay for general fund purposes. And hopefully that the board will take into consideration the things that I said about the legal concerns, and I hope that the board will choose to not proceed any further with this matter in light of all the issues that at least I see that's before this board. And Mr. Mayor, at this time I'm going to yield the floor.
All right. And at this time, I'm going to take a moment as a licensed attorney to respond to some of the things you said.
Okay, go ahead.
And certainly, we're arguing our opinions of the law as provided. But I believe the law is quite clear and unambiguous on this subject, as the city attorney has stated it. The Attorney General's office has twice opined that 21, 27, 23, which, let's be clear, when we are discussing Mississippi Code annotated section 21-27-23, we are discussing the statute that allows you to create an enterprise fund. Twice, the Attorney General's office has opined that that is the statute that gives municipalities the authority to do work on drainage ditches. If you have the authority to do work on drainage ditches pursuant to that statute, then you also have the authority to charge fees and regulate it as an enterprise fund. The two are indistinguishable from each other. And that's getting a step beyond the plain text of 21-27-23, which allows you to create an enterprise fund for sewer and sewage systems. This is a storm sewer system. There's no question about that. Now, Alderman Perkins has spent a great deal of time basing his argument on the fact that this would not be a valid fund based on there being no benefit that somebody receives in exchange for the fund. I beg to differ. You receive a benefit from the city and from our storm sewer system every time we have a rain event in this community. And rain falls off your house, it goes down the gutter, it goes into the street, finds its way into an inlet, ultimately through a piping system and to our storm sewer system where we have issues like we have on Carver Drive, like we have on Maple Drive, like we have in Colonial Hills and 19 other places throughout the city. That is the benefit of the service, much the same as the service you receive when the sanitation truck comes, or more appropriately, with your sewer service. Now, you pay two fees with your sanitary sewer service. Your sanitary sewer service, you pay a $4 flat fee for the benefit of the service. That is to say, if the city has extended a sewer pipe that can carry sewage away from your house, sanitary sewage away from your house, you pay $4 for the benefit of that service. Then you pay a water usage charge for the amount of water that is carried by that pipe away from your house. This system is almost exactly the same as that. Instead of carrying your sanitary sewage water away from your house, what you're paying for in this instance is carrying your stormwater away from your house. The only difference is one runs through the drain in your house and one runs off of your house. Now, it is noteworthy that we have not before charged a fee for storm sewage before, like we have for sanitary sewage. This statute actually speaks to that as well. It says you do not have to charge a fee for any of these services. So that the city could fund sanitary sewage through its general fund, as it's funded storm sewage maintenance through its general fund in the past. But again, what this all hinges on is the plain text of 21-27-23 and accompanying Attorney General's opinions that have added additional insight on the statute. And that statute plainly says that you can create an enterprise fund and you can establish fees for sewage system, for the maintenance of your sewage system. And make no mistake about it, when we do repairs on drainage ditches, when we do repairs on Maple Drive, when we do repairs on Carver Drive, we are repairing our storm sewage system. Any further questions or comments from members of the board? Alderman Sistrunk.
I just have two things to say, and the first involves legal opinions. And the one thing that I've become amazingly aware, and I don't know how I got to be my age without knowing this, but legal opinions are like medical opinions. You consult with an attorney, you're going to get an opinion based on the way that attorney practices law. Mr. Latimer is quite conservative in his practice of law, in my opinion, and it's one of the things I appreciate about him as our city attorney. Mr. Perkins is even more conservative in his interpretation of the law. But they are opinions, and that is something that each of us sitting here at the board has got to gauge how much weight we give to each of those opinions. The mayor, as a licensed attorney, weighed in with even a third opinion about how this can be interpreted. The other thing I want to do is I want to say that I believe Mr. Perkins, Alderman Perkins, misspoke about a tax increase levied in this budget year for the city of Starkville. In the 3 budgets that the city of Starkville has passed during this board's term, we raised taxes one year for 0.45 mils, less than half a mil. So that was either misremembering what year we're in terms of the budget, or confusing us with other taxing entities that we pay taxes to, or something else. But we did not raise taxes this budget year in the city of Starkville.
Mr. Mayor, just very briefly, just want to clarify for the record, my careful articulation of my comments, I never said that we increase the taxes this term. I'm very astute to that. I mean, I know when the majority raised taxes from 19.55 mils to 20 mils. I know that. So I have an intellectual understanding of when the tax increase was done, but it has been done. The point remains, it's been done one time this term to members of the public. And I understand that. So I just want to make sure that the public understands that I know when the tax increase was done, which was during this term of this mayor board, just one time. It was a tax increase. Thank you, Mayor.
Any more discussion on the legal aspect of this? Because we're about to have discussion on the merit of it in a second. Alderman Dumas?
I'm not sure I want to wade off in this because I by no means am a licensed attorney. Chris, is it your understanding this is not an impact fee?
Well, I want to clarify a couple things, and I want to get to your question. The first being that I want to be clear that my opinion falls somewhat in between Alderman Perkins' opinion and the mayor's opinion. I don't see it as black and white as either one of them, and that's what I tried to set up on the beginning, saying that you have to read these AG opinions in the context of the statute, but there's not a Supreme Court case on point. And the concern that Alderman Perkins raised about actually measuring the usage, I think is a fair point, because even the AG opinions say that the rate, even if a flat rate, has to be reasonably calculated, and the board has to make factual findings to support that reasonable calculation to sustain the cost of the operation. At the end of the day, though, guys, you always want me to take a position, and I think when you read the law as a whole, it cuts in favor of the city being able to do this, and that's my opinion on it. One thing about the turn out the lights statement that the mayor said, when the first draft of the resolution came, I told city staff that you can't turn out somebody's lights for their failure to pay the stormwater fee, so that's already been stricken from the resolution. Impact fee, I'm sorry. The home builder's case was accurately stated by Alderman Perkins about what is an impact fee. I don't think this is an impact fee because I think the statute 212723 controls and provides authority. An impact fee occurs when there's not authority to tax somebody and you don't have any basis for it. The home builder's case goes on to say that an impact fee is not per se illegal, and that if you do have statutory authority, even if it is an impact fee, that stands up legally. But again, I have no policy dog in the hunt. I tried to look at this with legal blinders.
And what does the statute say about enterprise fee, and going back to what Alderman Perkins said about enterprise fees for goods and services? I personally can justify this as a service. Is it your legal opinion that we're doing that and justifying this as an enterprise fund?
You know, I think that's the idea. The statute does not talk in terms of quote-unquote enterprise fund. The statute says what I opened up my comments saying that it says, which is any municipality may establish, maintain, and collect rates for a sewerage system.
Enterprise fund is an accounting term. Enterprise fund just refers to where monies collected from a fee go.
So from statute, there's nothing clear on point on that as far as...
Well, it's automatic. When you establish a utility service, which this statute speaks directly to utilities, you would be establishing a storm sewer utility. And when you make that establishment and when you collect fees for it, they go into an enterprise fund rather than a general fund.
I have no further comment.
Alderman Carter.
So I guess in layman terms, I just had a question. and this is for the city attorney, should these capital improvement projects, in your legal opinion, be paid out of general fund or the enterprise fund, or does it matter?
Well, right now, it's a general fund issue unless something changes.
So should they be paid out of the enterprise fund?
That's not a legal question. I mean,
That's not a legal question.
you have to.
Policy decision.
Yeah, it's a public policy decision.
Okay, so legally they can be paid out of this enterprise fund, yes or no?
Well, I mean, I need to ask how the accounting is done in the office. How many enterprise funds do we have?
4.
And what do they relate to?
They are the utilities, sanitation, water, sewer.
Yeah, when the funds are earmarked for those things, then of course funds can be paid out of those enterprise funds to go to the particular things that they're earmarked for.
So I guess I'm trying to corner you in on yes or no. Should these capital improvements be paid out of the general fund, or should they be paid out of the enterprise fund, which we're driving this flat rate?
I can't answer that right now.
Can't answer that. Thank you.
And the term enterprise fund is just something that comes from Governmental Accounting Standards Board. That's how they tell you have to set up your accounting. But it does provide a safeguard, and that is something that's noteworthy about all of this. One of the issues that we have had with storm sewage over the years is when the budget becomes tight, those become some of the first projects that are cut from capital improvements. That would be no more if you have a separate fee and money's going into an enterprise fund. Because by law, those funds cannot be used for any purpose other than the maintenance and improvement of your storm sewage system. Alderman Corey.
Okay. I'm just going to speak on the legality of this issue. Now, I think one thing everyone here at the table can probably agree on is that this is breaking new territory for us, not just as a city, but according even to Lynn's own research, as a state. She wasn't able to find any other municipalities that had gone about this. So, you know, we've been talking about AG's opinions on this issue or that issue, but this was one of the reasons why I specifically requested at the last meeting of the city attorney to seek an AG's opinion on this particular case. Now, was that done?
No, it wasn't done at the direction of the mayor. And because here's the deal: if I do, I have to write a line about exactly who I'm taking orders for to make sure that I'm not looking like I'm getting steered politically by any one particular person. And you made that suggestion the other day. It did not get full board approval. I talked about the research plan I had with the mayor, and the mayor instructed me not to seek an AG opinion, but to present my research and then revisit the issue. And that's why I called you on the way to the meeting, to tell you that if you're still interested in AG opinion, I'll do it. But I don't want it necessarily to be an individual directive, because I don't want anybody to accuse me that I'm playing politics with my opinions.
Well, and let's be clear how that discussion took place. I didn't tell you not to seek an AG's opinion as Alderman Corey had told you to seek an AG's opinion. What I told you is I thought the law was clear on the subject, and that I would like to see if we can't reconcile it without getting an AG's opinion. And if that, but I didn't instruct you. Don't seek an AG's opinion.
That's not my recollection of the conversation.
We can certainly seek an AG's opinion. And had you told me you thought we needed to get an AG's opinion on it, I would have said absolutely, let's get an AG's opinion on it. Alderman Sister.
Can I speak to an accounting issue? Let's talk about something else for a second. Ms. Spruill checked to see if there were other storm sewer fees in operation in the state, and she did not find that. What she probably did not ask, and what none of us sitting here at the table know, is what they are charging to, what other municipalities are charging to their enterprise fund. So they well could be charging drainage type projects to an enterprise fund. We don't know the answer to that question. So keep in mind that that might be occurring in other cities and we don't know that.
And Alderman Corey, let me just say to you, to clear this matter up, The purpose of my conversations with the city attorney about whether to seek an AG's opinion was certainly never to circumvent any intent you may have had in wanting an AG's opinion. And if that happened, I do apologize.
Does the board want an AG opinion? Does any particular alderman want an AG opinion?
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll
I'll do an AG opinion.
We'll do an AG opinion. The major issue with an AG opinion is it's going to take 6 weeks to get an AG's opinion back. And what you'll see with the next projects that we've got to discuss is they're time sensitive. And the reality is that taking 6 weeks for an AG opinion is going to make it, for all intents and purposes, probably impossible to accomplish some of the drainage work during this construction season. I certainly never was it my intent to hide the ball from the AG's office. It's a timing matter, and again, I believe the law is clear, and the city attorney had clear enough ground to stand on to submit a memo to the board. So we'll seek an AG's opinion at this point. Alderman Ball.
Personally, I feel like we should just forget about this, because if some of you probably hadn't done some of the things that I have done since you've been alderman, when you're visiting some of these people's houses that is on supplement Social Security, which is probably about $600 a month, you go in their house is so hot, and they just trying to determine, what do I pay? Do I run my electricity, or do I keep me enough money to get my medicine? $2.50 might mean nothing to you, like it don't mean nothing to me. But a person that on low income, no income, fixed income, that means something to them. And we got to start doing things fair and honest towards people and not towards each other on this board. And we talking about what ditches we gonna fix. Have we ever tried to raise money to fix any ditch and anywhere? Have we ever tried to do this? It always came out of the general fund. So why, when it come down to Carver Drive ditch and the other, and Northside Drive ditch, why we got to go somewhere and try to find money? That's not fair. I mean, you don't have no respect for the peoples in Ward 6 and Ward 7, because these are 30, 25 years projects. Now we want to try to go out and try to find money. That doesn't make sense. And we sitting here arguing about $2.50, which a lot of people cannot even pay, simply because they decide, is I'm going to get my medicine or I'm going to leave my air conditioning running. People don't even run the air conditioner because they got a decision to make. Do I get my medicine? Do I eat? What do I do? $2.50 don't mean nothing to you all. Don't mean nothing to me. But some of the rest of them. And what we supposed to be doing, honest and fair. Other people, for other people, by the people. And we forgetting about the peoples. I'm through, Mr. Mayor.
Let me offer some concluding comments on this. This all started on November 15th. November 15th was the day that we got a report from the city engineer on the total cost of the Carver Drive piping project and the Maple Drive project. At that point in time, it became very obvious that the cost of those two items was much higher than anything our drainage program that we had set up in the past could absorb. At that point in time, Alderman Perkins urged me to exercise leadership and finding a way to get the matter done. And Alderman Perkins, I told you that I was going to spend a month, and by the end of the year, I was going to try to find a way to get our drainage program moving. Because the reality of the matter is, the program is underfunded. And until new revenue is introduced into the program, it will continue to be underfunded. Now, the proposal of the storm sewage fee was my best effort It was my absolute dead level best after meeting for hours with our staff and them meeting additional hours with each other, determining how much cost could be cut on these projects by using internal labor. And that left us with a shortfall in our drainage program over the next decade of between $1 and $1.3 million. So my research efforts, hearkening all the way back to a year ago, when we had somebody come from the Environmental Finance Center in North Carolina to tell us how communities were funding drainage improvements, and then following up on that with research, I discovered that over 500 communities throughout the United States of America have made these services a utility service and are charging fees for it. Now that, to me, seemed to be a manner, and if you looked at how the numbers shook out, you could fund the entire program with a $2.50 fee residentially and a $5 fee commercially. I did believe and still believe that Mississippi law provides for it. We'll seek an AG's opinion and see. But my earnest effort from the get-go on this has been to exercise leadership and to bring solutions to this board that can actually fund the projects. Because the reality is, it is a disservice to our constituents, it is a disservice to the city when we come in week after week and have the same discussion about how these projects can't get funded. Until we find a means of funding the project, that discussion isn't going to change. And this was my heartfelt best effort. Alderman Sister.
And I have one bit of, to add to that, is that in our packet, this is presented as a capital improvement plan for drainage projects in the city. This is a list that's evolved over a period of time, and I suspect that the reason there's so few projects on this is because we have had no real funding for projects, so it was pointless to bring them up and talk about them. I have projects that I'd like to have added to this list. I know there are other aldermen sitting at the table that have projects that they also would like to have added to this list. I appreciate that that we are making an effort to try to find a way to fund this. And I agree completely that if we don't find a mechanism for funding these kind of projects, we need to quit talking about these projects.
All right. Any further discussion on the topic? Alderman Carver.
I'll throw in my 2 cents worth. First of all, I brought this before the board because continually we discuss Carver and Maple Drive and Colonial Hills, from what I understand, is just as sensitive. The red flag to me tonight was the one man that's most adamant about drainage issues in his ward is Alderman Perkins, and for him to not want to vote on this really threw up a red flag to me, and I really respect his opinion of why and the legality behind it. But again, I guess I just kind of, some of it's over my head, and I definitely want to seek an AG's opinion, because if we do this, I guess we'll be the most progressive in the terms of this in the state of Mississippi, the first that in the state of Mississippi to do this kind of fee. So that, and in doing that, even though there's never been a Supreme Court opinion on this, I would like to see something. There's a lot of lawyers in this room, something above the lawyers in this room, somebody give an opinion if it is legal, if it can be used, and for Alderman Perkins to be against it, that really, I'd like to follow his leadership on this. If he's for it, I would be for it, and if he's against it, I'd be against it. I'm not saying that concrete or stone is going to depend a lot on what the AG says, and the mayor realizes that this is about the only end of this problem. I mean, I would say we don't have the funds to do it any other way. This is a way that you got in 2 to 3 years to have all of these 28 plus the rest of the iceberg solved. So it is a good thing. And in the meantime, and I know I'm the one that's helping to extend it and table this until we get some kind of opinion, but in all honesty, Maple Drive is the only one that's going to have flooding issues. People can't move back into the houses. I guess everybody knows that, but and that's the one. So I'm going out on a limb. I want to table this, seek an opinion, and find out, because the people on Maple Drive need it. just like the people in Carver Drive need it, and the people in Colonial Hills and the rest of these. But the AG opinion is gonna guide a lot of how I feel about this and how I direct my vote in the future, so.
Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'm going to assume that the discussion of the storm sewer, creation of storm sewer enterprise fund is now moot. Anyone wishing to discuss that matter? All right, seeing none. That will take us to the discussion and consideration of prioritizing capital improvement project for fiscal year 2012 to include Northside Drive ditch.
I move we table this until further, until after the Attorney General's opinion is.
Alderman Dumas has made a motion to table the consideration of prioritizing capital improvement projects to include Northside Drive ditch. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. Any abstentions? All right, by a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against and 1 not voting, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is the H&H study on Colonial
I
Hill.
move we table this until after the Attorney General's opinion.
Well, we do have the engineer, the contract
Second.
engineer here to make a.
I move that we table this matter.
All right, Alderman Dumas has made a motion to table the results of the H&H study conducted on Colonial Drive ditch. Alderman Dumas, that's your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. Any abstentions?
I voted with the motion to table.
By a vote of 7 in favor with 0 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the agenda is the consideration of the options for treatment of Carver Drive ditch and Maple Drive ditch, and authorization to proceed with design drawings for Maple Drive and submission.
I move we table.
Second.
Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to table, and it's been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes.
Are we through with the agenda?
Personnel.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of item 1 on personnel.
Motion has been made by Alderman Dumas to approve of the hire of Nathan George, Charles Harden, Amber Hayden, Charlie Jones, and Joseph Miller to fill vacant positions as police officers as presented. Alderman Dumas, that's your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Sistrunk. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merit?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay.
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 By a vote of 5 in favor with 2 against, this measure passes. The next matter on the
Move
agenda,
approval.
the motion has been made to promote Chandra Bell to fill the vacant position of Account Services Clerk in the Electric Department as presented. Alderman Dumas, is that your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Dumas, do you wish to speak on the merit?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the request for approval of a temporary pay increase for firefighter Preston T. Helms, acting in the role of acting sergeant for personnel policy manager.
So moved.
All right, motion has been made by Alderman Perkins.
Fun.
Alderman Vaughn to approve of a temporary pay increase for firefighter Preston T. Helms, acting in the role of acting sergeant per personnel policy manual. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion?
Motion.
Do I hear a second? Motion has been seconded by Alderman Parker. Alderman Vaughn, you wish to speak on the merits?
Motion.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda.
Move approval.
Now, Mayor, I have a question about whether this is in compliance with city policy, the salary rate, not the hiring of Ms. Howard.
We're on 5.
Oh, we're on 5, sorry.
All All right, the request for approval to hire Adam Goff as staff accountant for the electric department. Alderman Sistrunk, is that your motion?
Yes.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Vaughn. Alderman Sistrunk, do you wish to speak on the merits? Any discussion, any discussion, any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. The next matter on the agenda is the request for approval to hire Stephanie Halbert to fill the position of Deputy City Clerk with responsibility for payroll in the City Clerk's office.
So moved.
Second.
Motion has been made by Alderman Vaughn to hire Stephanie Halbert to fill the position of Deputy Clerk with responsibility of payroll in the City Clerk's office as presented. Alderman Vaughn, is that your motion? Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Perkins. Alderman Vaughn, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No, sir.
Any discussion? Alderman Sistrunk.
I have concerns about whether the salary that's proposed for Ms. Halbert, and I have absolutely no problem with moving Ms. Halbert into this position, but I have questions about whether the salary that's proposed for Ms. Halbert is in compliance with city policy. We've heard repeatedly questions about the Stennis Institute and applying that equitably across the board within departments. This is a lateral move, and we're proposing an almost 30% salary increase for a lateral move. Can someone, the HR, can Mr. Boyd speak to us about whether this is consistent with city policy? Are we setting aside policy and Stennis Institute recommendations here?
There is a policy that was passed by the board back in '06, I believe it was, on pay adjustments, and this action differs from what is stated in the policy.
And have you made this recommendation to us that we give this sort of pay increase with no justification for the pay increase? Or has that direction come from others within the city?
This recommendation came at the request of City Clerk Monkey Island.
And if we give this pay increase, what does that do to us in terms of other positions within the city? We've effectively set aside our policy and open ourselves to all sorts of questions, don't we?
It is deviating from the policy, and you have to look at each case individually then as a matter before the board. The consideration of policy has been set aside in this case.
Thank you. I'd like to amend the motion to set the salary at, or to keep Ms. Halbert's salary at her current rate.
Alderman Sistrunk has made a motion to amend Alderman Vaughn's motion. Do you have the packet?
It's not fair.
Hire Ms. Halbert at the salary of $25,289.79, $12.16 an hour, which is her current salary. Alderman Sistrunk, is that your motion?
It is, given that it's a lateral move.
Hold on one second. Let's get into the motion. Do I hear a second?
I'll
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
The motion has been seconded by Alderman Parker. Alderman Sistrunk, you wish to speak on the merits?
It is a lateral move. It is our policy, which is attached to this, that when there's a transfer within the same department with the same pay grade and salary range, the pay grade and step of the employee will not be changed.
I believe Ms. Outlaw wants to speak on it.
I asked the personnel director to bring this before the board because we don't have a mechanism to change the grade and step. The salary range for that position was, the amount suggested was within the salary range of the position. The policy handcuffs the existing city employees, if someone from external had been approved for this, there would have been no conversation, no dialogue on that. But because someone within the office applied for the position that is more than capable, more than qualified for the position, we're looking at the policy to handcuff us. And with the salary that you're suggesting, there would really be any need for her to even want to try that position.
Is there, what are the differences in the, if you could just, what are the differences in the positions?
The position, one is going to be responsible for payroll activities.
And currently she's
In
responsible.
her current role, she's responsible for records.
Which are a
Both of them,
critical part of our.
yes, both of them have immense responsibilities. And both positions they are comparable. However, it's no way one would move from one to the other without an increase. And I've done research on all positions in my office. And as Ms. Sistrom can tell you, that when we have budget meetings, we go in and the first thing I bring up is trying to get the salaries up.
Every department head does.
Every department head does. We've never, all of a sudden now we're talking about the Stennis report. We've never talked about the Stennis report before.
We've talked about it within the past month.
Well, I mean, with some positions. I'm asking because it's a critical time for me now. I need a payroll clerk. And this serves to simply put me back at square one.
Do you have other people in the department who are making less than the proposed
Yes,
amount?
yes, there are.
Did you have other people within your department apply for this job?
No one else applied.
And do you have any idea why no one else applied? Do you think that they thought it was a lateral move and therefore there would be no salary adjustment?
Mrs. Trump, I went in front of my department, explained to them that I was going to ask for the upper end of that range. The range was the one that the board approved. I told them I was going to ask for the upper end of the range, simply because the responsibilities are immense. The duties are tremendous. And every person in my office heard this speech. I really thought that all of them would apply. Well, the three deputies there, I really thought they would apply. Only one applied.
I will say that it is our policy that lateral transfers be compensated at their current rate. I think Ms. Halbert is an excellent candidate, as are your other deputy clerks.
Exactly.
But it is our policy, and when we begin making individual policy decisions based on individuals, we set a very poor path for us to go down regarding any future hires or any future transfers. And I'm sorry that we don't have the money to pay people more, but we've just finished the discussion about not being able to fund capital projects. And we're now going to have people who voted or who killed this effectively with their discussion. And now they're going to be asking us to make a budget exception
But
or
Mrs.
policy
Trump,
exception.
But Mrs. Trump,
I understand, Ms. Outlaw. I
no,
understand.
but what you're saying now is because the capital improvement project.
No, I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that we have people who take conflicting positions on these matters based on what they wish to support. And the two are unrelated, but Alderman Vaughn has his hand up.
I got a question. What was the job? What was the job advertised for?
had a range from 24 to 32, I believe it was.
In the
It's a
previous,
range.
from what, 24 to 32?
And that was a range,
Okay. In the past, department heads have made adjustment. They came in with attachment. The police department came in with attachment. We voted for it. The electric department came in with attachment. We voted for it. We approved it. What's the difference now? That's the only thing I'm asking. Just tell me what's the difference now.
What? I'm
I'm asking, where's the fairness at? When are we going to be fair with everybody across the board? Where's the fairness? We came in with attachments. I didn't vote for it, but y'all approved it. But now you got the same issue before you. I don't understand. I can't understand where the fairness is up here.
Further discussion. Alderman Sistrunk or Alderman Carver?
What did the last employee make?
I'm really not certain about her salary. I want to say it was 20 Sarah.
Not mistaken, Sarah's salary, exit salary was 32.
Oh, okay.
She was on the upper end.
Well, because I would have said about 28. I'm really not certain.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
And
Alderman
Yeah.
Sistrunk.
I'm going to say that, in response to Alderman Vaughn's question, typically when these things have come to us, there's been some justification for that. The electric department reorganization, Chief Lindley had justifications for his. This is presented as just a policy exception with no justification.
While this is a lateral move, is this more responsibility?
They're really equally responsible. The payroll has different responsibilities.
No more liability or anything like that?
They both have to be bonded, but payroll has more monetary
That's
responsibility.
kind of wanting to know if you can grade them or scale them, any kind of responsibility, liability.
It would be very difficult because the records, they are equally important. So it's just differing in the nature of the position.
I guess what I'm saying, I'm looking for a justification of the maximum end or the cap end versus a low,
Because traditionally and historically, the positions there are well below the and I'm saying I did research on just those positions, and the low end starts out at 33, the low end, and my high end was less than that.
Yes, ma'am.
And that's how I came up with the amount, based on the responsibility and the duties.
And we've got those salary inequities in every department.
We do. And I know that through attrition is going to be the only way that we can get the salaries up. And this was one. What we're doing with our policy is we're handcuffing our own employees. That in itself, should be looked at and say, well, especially, I thought the policy was those going for a promotion. This is not a promotion. It's a hire. I have a position to fill, and I want to fill that position. And the board gave me a range to do it in. I want to use that range.
Alderman Perkins.
Mr. Mayor, let me just say that the city needs to be consistent in its policies regarding salaries, employment practices, and hiring practices. Now, prior to tonight, other than my mentioning it, there has not been any consideration basically about the Stennis Institute. Now, what the law requires is, it requires that people who are similarly situated be treated similarly. Now, it is my opinion that we need to treat the city clerk's office consistent with personnel in other offices. And how do we look at whether there is consistent treatment or inconsistent treatment. We make that determination by looking at the prior action of the board. What has been the prior action of the board? No disrespect to these departments, but just calling a spade a spade. You look at the electric department. The electric department has brought requests, and no disrespect to the department head, I'm just talking facts, and not putting people or names with this. But you've had requests come, request after request after request. Whatever the recommendation was, whether it's 40,000, 50,000, it get approved. We had a request in another department where it was advertised for a lower amount, then it got approved at a higher amount, or it came to the board at a higher amount, it got approved. Now, when the city clerk bring her recommendation here, we want to pull out the book on her. You know, of course, if the Stennis Institute had been evenly applied, then that's what should have been done. But don't penalize and treat this office differently than the way other offices have been treated. But this board has routinely approved over the objection has routinely approved department head requests. We just had a lady who left a staff accountant in one of the departments, went to account manager, no question asked, and the pay went on up much higher. We've increased the pay of other personnel in the electric department. Whatever that department head came, it happened. And we weren't talking about those 30. It was like in the 40,000. I mean, it was good money, up in the 40,000. But time we get something from the city clerk's office, we want this. Now, you know, is it just really? I mean, is this really right for this girl to promote into a position with the duties as explained by the department head and keep the same salary? I mean, would you want to do that? No. I mean, you know, we need to be consistent. I mean, this amendment, it doesn't even have any merit. You may vote for it, but it's not right. It's not fair. If that had come from another department, I'd say the same thing tonight. If it had come from the information department, it had come from Mr. Kemp's, Edward Kemp's department, or the fire chief department, and I would make the same statement. If you want to hold me to it, you bring it up here and see. I'll tell you. But we need to have some consistency. Now, if the board did not want to give Ms. Outlaw that authority to increase the pay or recommend this pay for the person to be recommended to the board, then there's one way that the board should have done that. And the way that the board should have done is when it came up for authority to advertise, say no. You know, it wouldn't have been no expectation. So, you know, I mean, so basically what the board's trying to do, this amendment is going against the board's on action. If you want to limit this as a lateral transfer in the same position, that should have gone out in the notice. Don't treat this employee differently because she's an internal employee, whereas had been somebody on the outside, it wouldn't have been in the question. So the way to gauge this in the future is if you don't want it to pay any more, then what you do is when the matter comes up for authority to advertise, then you keep it at that dollar amount. But it's rather inconsistent to change the rules at this point when you have given the authority to advertise. So, you know, the majority has given deference to all the other department heads. There's no rational basis, in my opinion, to treat this person differently. You know, to keep her in at the same rate of pay and you giving the authority to advertise, even the announcement that's gone out, whatever the range is, I don't have the range before me, but whatever the range is, we need to follow whatever the range is. Now, we want to start following the Stennis Institute like I've been advocating. We first of all need to start reviewing it to see what it says. But you know, we don't need to just arbitrarily apply it to one particular situation. But in the future, to avoid these type of conversations, and I don't really enjoy these kind of conversations, but I wish I didn't have to say anything about it. But what we need to do in the future is, if we don't want to pay any more than what the position, please let's not give authority to advertise for more. And then if we don't advertise for more, then that'll be end of the conversation. But I think since the board has already advertised, gave authorization to advertise per the department head's request, then let's follow the department head requests just like we do in all others. And therefore, we'll be consistent in our hiring practices, and our hiring policies, and our hiring procedures. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Further discussion?
I would like to say that the facts and circumstances with Starkville Electric, which is the most recent department that we have dealt with, were quite different. They reorganized, they eliminated some positions, and if the city clerk wishes to do the same thing in her office and then come back to us with a reorganization and a different pay structure, I would happily entertain that. But these facts and circumstances are quite different. We authorize the advertisement of a position subject to our hiring policies, and unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, that if we had hired an external candidate, they would have been paid differently than an internal candidate. But it is our policy, it is a lateral move, and I don't know what else to say. I don't know what else to say.
Alderman Carver.
Well, I think I know the answer, but I'm asking the city attorney, this says in here that, if it is a lateral transfer, the pay grade and step of the employee will not be changed. Are we breaking any kind of law if we give her the mentioned or the suggested salary?
We're violating our internal policy, and so the two policy considerations you've got to weigh in making this decision tonight are the policy considerations raised by Alderman Perkins, which is similar treatment to similar people who are making internal transfers. That's on one side of the ledger, and on the other side of the ledger is us adhering to our own written policies. They're both viable legal issues.
So again, I try to corner you and say, is one better than the other?
Is one better than the other?
Right.
I think, I would put it this way, if this were a lawsuit, this internal policy would be exhibit number 1 against us, if we violate our own internal policies.
So then, are you telling me that if Ms. Hubbard resigned, I can hire her back?
You asking me?
That's what
Oh.
it sounds like the city attorney has said.
I'm not telling you how to run your department, Ms. Outlaw.
Well, I'm saying if she hands her resignation in tonight, I can hire her back.
First, we have to authorize advertising for the position.
Well, it's already been advertised and interviewed for.
Mr. Mayor, may I recognize?
You may.
Mr. Attorney, just one last question, because I'm about ready to call it a night. Before I call it a night, let me ask you this question. You said it, but I just want to highlight it here. Am I correct that it's a viable and very significant consideration that we treat employees similarly, those that are similarly situated in our city?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Attorney.
Just for clarification on that point, are there similar circumstances to these where we have, I'm just trying to get where the basis of that is going in comparison and precedent with how we've not or have treated individuals in the city.
Alderman Dumas.
Fairness, or fair-wise.
We have policies in place, and even tonight, we violated one earlier, where a person didn't apply for a position, but we gave them one. We interviewed, had the applications processed, we interviewed, they didn't apply for the position, but we've given it to them. That's the policy. That, matter of fact, court order. It's not, this not this policy.
And which individual was that?
I'd rather not say. It's not this policy. It's been this way, and the only thing I'm asking is that the board allow me to use the range in which they set forth. That's all I'm asking.
Randy, who was hired with no advertisement?
I think the reference is in regards to the account services clerk in the collective department. That position was advertised. Applicants were interviewed. It was determined out of the initial applicant pool that none of the applicants possessed the desired qualifications. We continued the process. In the meantime, an internal applicant asked if she could assist with the position. She did so. She then applied. We have many situations where we have accepted applicants, interviewed, and continued the process. Perfect example, the city engineer position was open for a very long time, with applications continuing to be received before it was filled. The applicant did apply for the position and was selected for the position.
How does that square with our policy?
It is consistent with what we've done in others. As I say, the city engineer position was advertised, open for a long period of time. Applications were continued over a continuing period. It is consistent with what has been done in other cases. We do advertise the position, we review the applicants, and go from there.
Mr. Mayor, I'm going to say one last thing. May I be recognized?
You may.
You know, it all boils down to what the board wants to do. It's not, Mr. Boyd, it's not to you. I'm just talking, no question to you. But it all boils down to what the board wants to do. If the board wants to do it, they'll do it. I mean, the board finds a way to do what it wants to do. The city attorney gave you two options, the way you want to, but the bottom line is our mission statement in our amended court-ordered employment policy is that we have to treat employees fair and consistent. And this lady is not being treated fair and consistent, regardless of how you package the facts. When they all get shaken out of the bag, it's unfair practice, inconsistent practice, and unfair treatment. I mean that's our mission statement. And this is the first conversation I've seen where it had this length of discussion about wanting to do anything a department head wants. Maybe we had the wrong department head making the request tonight. So, but the bottom line is we need to go ahead and approve it. The board authorized for it to be advertised at that amount. And now when you get to the department head's recommendation, you want to micromanage your department. If you didn't want the department head to have that latitude, then you should have cut it off at the gate before it got out of the gate. So, that's how you skin that cat. I mean, but that was allowed. The department head is acting within policy. The department head is acting according to a board order. There's no violation of board order. The board said the range is the bottom and the maximum is the top. So the department head did not come back with a recommendation outside of board order. If you want to confine the department head, this board knows how to get that done. Now they don't like the dollar amount. Oh, we slipped here. Now we want to change our minds. You need to get it right the first time. Get it right the first time, then you don't have to worry about it anymore. Just do it correctly. But since the department head acted according and within the confines of the board order, we need to follow our directive. You just can't just treat this person different because this is the way you think, then treat this person different. The law frowns upon those things. The law frowns upon those things. So we need to treat all our employees consistent. And that's what I'm urging tonight. Treat this department head and this employee consistent. Treat them fair. How would you want to be treated? You want to be treated fair. So that's the bottom line. I mean, and one last thing I want to say, all of these comments I'm making, they are not for my benefit. So my feelings are not getting hurt by anybody speaking against what I say, because this is not about Alderman Perkins. This is not about the messenger. It's about the message. So the message is to be consistent and to be fair. And this amendment is not consistent and is not fair.
Further discussion on Alderman Sistrunks' motion. Alderman Parker.
So we would then re-advertise for the records, for the deputy records clerk?
That's
I mean,
correct.
if this position were filled?
That's
And
correct.
would we advertise that in the same range that this one is in?
Yes.
They're the same position, so they would be, you'd be the same range.
If the board authorized that, that's what we would advertise.
And I should have learned this last time, but if we're at the highest, salary and grade, if you're at the highest in that range, What then happens if there are pay raises or yearly, I mean, they can go above?
You still stay in that range, you just get the increase across the board, whatever the board is, but you still be in your
So if there
grade.
was, say, just a 2% across the board pay increase, the grade then goes up 2%?
Well, actually, the grade is supposed to stay the same, you just stay in your grade, and you're just getting the increases across the board.
I mean, like if you give a $500 raise, you get a $500 raise across the board.
Yeah, you still stay in the
Range,
range.
you stay in the range.
Yeah, you just stay in that grade. You stay in your grade, and the range. Now you've extended the range. You just stay in your grade.
Further discussion? Any further discussion on Alderman Sistrok's amendment? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Any further discussion? Seeing none, we'll now move into vote on Alderman Sistrok's amendment. To remind you, this is the amendment to change the salary in the job approval to the original salary of, it was $25,289. $25,289.79. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. Any abstentions? Any abstention?
Yeah.
All right. By a vote of, let's see, 3-3-1. I vote nay. Wait a minute. This was the vote on the amendment.
Mr. Mayor, you done cast your vote.
This is a player 25.
Your vote is in.
The vote was on the amendment. Yeah, I vote nay. Discussion. Alderman Carver.
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion.
You want to amend the motion?
to
or-
vote on
Let's have a
This is
motion.
the main motion.
Okay.
You can amend it if there's something you want to amend.
Mr. Mayor, I call for the question for the vote on the main motion.
All right, the main motion, which stands as the job approval with the grade 8, step 10B, 32,677. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. Any abstention?
No, sorry.
Wait, all right. All those in favor, please signify by raising your hand. All those opposed, please signify by raising your hand. Any abstention? I vote yea.
You didn't have
It was 4 to you.
I didn't have it. By a vote of 4 in favor with 2 against. Measure passes.
Mr. Mayor, can we stand in recess? So we need to do this other business tonight. We're almost done.
We've got 2 reports from Sanitation and Environmental Services. Actually, we've got 1 report and 1 grant authorization.
Executive session.
And we've got a personnel matter to hear in executive session.
Mayor, may I be recognized?
You may.
Ms. Brewer, are those consent matters we can, can we put that on, about grant? That sound like good to me, grant money. Can we put that on consent?
The recycling money is entirely up to you.
Yeah, we can do that. The report is just a report. Is there any action needed on the sanitation report?
Let's move the report to the next meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I move approval of the $25,000 authorization on the recycling grant.
Alderman Demis has made a motion to approve of a recycling grant in the amount of $25,000 with authorization for mayor to execute the grant. Alderman Demis, that's your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion has been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Demis, do you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes.
As for the record, do we need to move item 2?
We do.
I'd like to table item 2 under sanitation department.
Alderman Demis made a motion to table a report on the litter control proposal from Sanitation and Environmental Services Department. Alderman Demis, that's your motion?
It is.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion's been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Demis, you wish to speak on the merits?
No.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passed.
I'm not fixing to leave, I'm just gonna stand up for a minute.
All right, a motion to go into closed session to discussion whether there's a
So
need
moved,
for
Mr. Mayor.
executive session is in order. Motion's been made by Alderman Perkins. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Motion been seconded by Alderman Corey. Alderman Perkins, do you wish to speak on the
No,
matter?
sir.
Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please signify by saying nay. Measure clearly passes. We'll now move into closed session. Without objection, I'm going to move us into brief recess.